Testing, 1 2, testing, 1 2, testing. My sound should be good. I appreciate that. Great catch. Let me know if I can be heard. I appreciate you all tuning in. Welcome to the Actual Facts Podcast. Here we will address this. This is actually episode 2, not episode 2, part 2 of episode 8. The previous episode, it was cut short, but it was very informative for those that have replied. Let me know, those that are tuning in. We appreciate you tuning in. Let me know if you can hear sound. Just kindly put in the chat that you can hear me well. That would be great. Okay, so the sound is good. We're again with a dynamic episode that back by popular demand, part 2. These intergalactical beings that we had addressed and talked about in specific detail on the 19th. As you know, the Actual Facts Podcast, we have the on the 9th, the 19th, and the 27th. We will maintain a nice schedule of various topics that the world has inquired upon, but can't seem to find the proper outformation or channel where they can acquire this important knowledge that our master teacher, His Excellency, Dr. Malachi Z. York, has given to us on this planet, given to the Nagar Nadu race, the Black African race, the lost souls of the West, the 144,000 deities that has to be raised in this day and time in order for you to claim your rightful royalty, your lineage, and your deityship, your godhood, as you once were worshipped by many people around the globe, many races. And so our job here is to cover the various topics, cover the questions, and give answers to the long thought out inquiries that our people have had over the last 400 years as it relates to them. And we cover many topics from the Quran to the Bible to the monotheistic religious doctrines. We cover subjects that people have heard about but not really have clarity on, such as the feminine goddess, the feminine goddess, the soul of soul, what is spirit. We cover the creation of and the origins of man. We covered those in episode 1 and 2. We also covered the topics of identity crisis, the identification and who we are as a people, identifying us as a nation, identifying our race and our bloodline. We have covered extraterrestrials and in creation and the Anunnaki, Allah, Elo, right? Rahubat, those that are coming in, can share the channel if you can now. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please share this information because people have been emailing, they have been putting comments, they would like certain questions to be answered. So I'll do my best in the time that we have. I've been having a few technical difficulties, but I think we're all squared away as far as the sound and things are concerned. As you know, last week or 9 days ago, we had an incredible lecture and we were cut short. So we'll get right into it. When you see the title of this this lecture, Intergalactical Beings, what we want to make clear is that most of the doctrines that people adhere to around the globe, coming from many cultures and various cultures, acknowledge these specific beings coming from the heavens, beings coming from what they say star systems that human beings can't identify with. They don't know where these star systems are exactly, other than the tools that's been given by the latest technology, or have been found or discovered, as they say, or uncovered in various the Hubble telescope, and then you have more advanced telescopes that exist now. So what we will do is present the information that the Heavenly Father, our Father in flesh, God in flesh, as we refer to him as, right, a supreme being, which means a supreme being. A lot of may not understand that you are supreme beings. By supreme beings, you are a being, a physical being who is supreme amongst others. And this is because of the qualities and the characteristics by which you were created as and with. And so when we say God in flesh, we're saying the supreme being in this day and time, the most knowledgeable being on the planet, a being with 76 trillion years of knowledge. And when these beings come to this planet, typically they set up various schools of thought and information for those that are worthy to be initiated into. And then those initiations, you acquire higher mysteries as opposed to the lesser mysteries that mortals uh, teach or preach in the various schools of religious doctrines. These are what you would call your lesser mysteries. And these lesser mysteries are surface information, basic biblical texts, basic translations, or so called translations, basic interpretations from a mortal perspective. However, there's a higher knowledge that's available that we have been blessed with in this day and time that I'm obligated myself, which we to share with you and give clarity on this outformation from outtellect, not intellect. Everything is coming from outside this Earth's atmosphere, outside this galaxy, from the mental reservoir that we all tap into, having minds of our own, right? Which we will get into, which is the doctrine of one of the beings we are reference to, named specifically Tahutwi, who has doctrines that has been kept secret and sacred, and doctrines that he has taught to in the higher mysteries. So we'll touch on those as well. And as a intergalactical being meaning traveling from various star systems, and like I said, the religious world acknowledges this information. They acknowledge that doctrine. They teach it. The religious world is the biggest backers of beings coming from the heavens. And so this shouldn't be as a shock to you, because now things will be revealed to human beings that has never been revealed before. And so we want to cover that in this episode, part two. Last week, I think we covered Tuhutwi or Zahutwi as a being from Sirius, stopping off in Sirius, coming from Risk or Ilion, right? The biblical texts speak about heaven as upward, or Shemayim. They use the term from upward or up there. Obviously, when you look in the skies, you see many star systems, you see many planets, you see many galaxies. There's a lot of phenomenon that are taking place that astrophysicists acknowledge. Stars are being born, stars are dying. You have white dwarfs, you have red giants, you have black holes, you have various billions of galaxies within our the Milky Way galaxy, billions of stars in our Milky Way galaxy, as they say. Then you have other star systems that have been recorded by cultures and various records of beings descending down onto this planet and bringing a certain amount of information to those that have been worthy to have it, and is responsible for building various civilizations. You hear about Mesopotamia, obviously. You hear about Mehmet. You hear about Egypt. You hear about the Aztec uh, Native Americans in South America, the Mayans, and and even in China, there's various pyramids there with temples of higher learning. And for some reason, they still teach that these are lost. This is lost information, because they can't acquire the information, obviously, because it's been kept away from the evil one. But we have a being in this day and time who has blessed us to give us this information that was considered to be lost. And so, because there's a lot to digest, we're taking it episode by episode. That's why it's important for you to make sure you tune in, turn on your notifications, turn on your obviously subscribe and share, and just look out for the posts where we have our schedules for the lectures, so we can keep a good timeline and kind of organize this information in a way that is comprehensible and you can digest it in steps, because there's 76 trillion years of knowledge. Just a portion of it has been given to us in the various books that's been written by His Excellency Dr. Malachi Z. York, Partner Bab Yanun, and over 1,500 books. Let me make it clear too that these books are available where you can obviously email those that have emailed. I appreciate that you've inquired about the publications. Let you know what publications are available from the various series: Christ series, God series, extraterrestrial series. We have our scriptural series where he has translated the Quran. He has translated from and placed the chapters into the original order. He's translated the Torah from the original Hebrew or oldest Hebrew, or the script by which the Hebrew with commentary. The book of Revelations is available. The book of Psalms is available. All of those books are available with the questions in the God series. The God series are particularly hot. They're very hot topic now, because these are your questions about the God of religion that people have been afraid to question about. They've been afraid to ask, who is God? Whose God is responsible? Is your God a wimp? Did God create the devil? Where's the devil today? Rahobat to everyone tuning in. So is those series are available for our people and for you all, those that are across the globe. We had a great response from people that are interested in this outformation, because it's transformative. And I think that is necessary for you all who are listening to stay tuned in, so we can really grasp exactly what has been hidden from us in this in the religious world of belief systems that has established themselves in our minds, where we now are people are afraid to question because of fear. We address this in other topics, but the fear is gone. We don't mind questioning, because the Father has taught us to question. And with questioning creates amount of courage and confidence that you have a God amongst you that is able to answer these questions. There's no God, you shouldn't have a deity that has a problem with you asking him questions. There shouldn't be any doctrine where, as human beings, if you are his children, as they say, we are the children of God. The religious world says you're the children of God, but don't ask, right? But then it contradicts their books where it says, ask, it shall be given, seek, and you shall find, knock, and the door shall be open. So the whole, which ask, seek, S, right? Knock, K, ASK. So you're supposed to ask. This is how you learn. Children learn from asking questions. You can tell the religious world doesn't have you in your soul in their best interest, is because they always say, well, don't ask, just believe. Yet, how are you supposed to develop the reasoning mind without asking questions, right? That you need answers to, that doesn't make sense. And these religious clergy and preachers and reverends and so-called imams who are in between you and the source, right? They want you not to question, because in questioning God, you have to question them first. And to prevent you exposing what they don't know, right? To prevent you exposing with the lack of knowledge that they have, they say, listen, don't ask, just believe. Don't ask God. Really, they're saying, don't ask me, because I don't know. I'm just here for a dollar. I'm just here for your tithes. I'm just here to look important. And so this is the spell that the Father is eliminating from the minds of our people once and for all. And this is the reason why in the publications you'll see that these are mostly questions, because in the questioning, your mind begins to spawn and spark to where the information that you're supposed to have, you'll be able to grasp, because now you are not afraid as a child sitting in a corner to ask an authority who's going to beat you down and hurt you, because you want to know, why is there evil? You want to know whose God is responsible, which is one of my favorite publications, whose God is responsible, because it literally questions the paradigm that says that, well, their God, the religious God, is responsible for all the good things that happen. When a beautiful baby is being born, they say, thank God a baby is born, the baby's healthy, people cheer, which is great. They say, well, a mother was cured from cancer, let's thank God. Or right, and he's responsible for bringing you out of the darkest days of your life, right, which is racism. They say dark days, which is negative, right? They didn't create that negative correlation. Well, if it's dark and bad, or black and ugly, or black is bad, black magic is bad, black cats are bad luck, they create this racist doctrine. They filtered into your religious information, and you adopt it without even knowing, subconsciously, right? So they teach that. They say, well, God removed people from the burning fire, right? While 5 people die, 2 people come out of the fire alive. God is responsible for the 2 people. But the question that the Father teaches and asks in the whose God is responsible is that, right, if you're saying that your God is responsible for everything, every act, every behavior, every weather phenomenon, things that happen on a planet, right, birth of beautiful babies, then we want to know whose God is responsible for birth defects, whose God is responsible for Siamese twins. Because if your God is molding the baby in the womb, right, to a perfected child, then that would be great. And that's beautiful. But then you're saying the same God is responsible for children born with no limbs. But when you ask them whose God is responsible for that, they don't know. They'll say, well, that's not God's doing. Well, you can't have it both ways. So these are the type of questions that has to be, and I'm sure those that are listening, you've had those type of questions yourself. It's just fortunately that we have a God amongst us that's not afraid of questions. And that's why we're here with this actual facts. And I do my best, as you know, to answer all of those questions that's been presented. So um, let's get into this episode. Intergalactical beings. Who are these beings? We stopped off last episode where we were talking about how the Father and his early experiences as a being incarnating in the body of Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, the various beings that has, which we explained before, how these extraterrestrials, or entities from the heavens, whether you call them angels, whether you call them Elohim, the Anunnaki, the Kachina, the Nomos, our Nathar, which are our ancestors, our overseers, the deities of nature, how they incarnate. They 3 typical ways is in the method by which they choose. And because of their advancement and their intellect and the existence of their worlds billions, even trillions of years before Earth, they have come to this planet in various ways. One way, specifically, is through taking of the human body. They'll incarnate, over take a child's body, use the body, make various biological, let's say, corrections, not necessarily corrections, but alterations, to allow the spiritual being or the etheric being take or take over the body, or encompass the body, or let's say a full divine embodiment, in order to take that type of energy and outformation from another world. You have to alter certain DNA in order for the body to obtain a certain amount of electric energy, which is the being that is using the body. The surge can often hurt the being, meaning that the DNA is not available, or not doesn't have the conducting mechanisms at the telomeres we discussed to harness a incarnation of such a large amount of outside energy taking over their body. So they have to do DNA adjustments, as in the case of our father, right, Dr. Malachi York, Panabab Yanun. Certain brain alterations was done in him at an early age in several stages, and beings who were preparing him for these incarnations would visit him at specific times. And as Tehutwi, as Ningizida, as Panabab Yanun, which is an Ethereum being, and to prepare him to teach us they had to make these adjustments. And some beings, when they incarnate, they don't necessarily take a physical body, right? Sometimes they will dematerialize or materialize into the electromagnetic spectrum in order for them, for you to see them, or for them to be governed by the physical laws on the planet. They will incarnate within the spectrum of visibility that you can see, and they will come in and out of that visibility. That's why some people say, well, I saw a being, but it also just disappeared. That's because they're able to go in and out of these various energy fields that are outside red and violet, which is in between. You have red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, and violet. Outside of that, you have your gamma rays, you have your ultraviolet rays, you have your microwaves, you have your radio waves, and this is how all energy on the planet even is passed on through television, radio frequencies, etc. And so these beings are able to go in and out of these various wave fields undetected, unless they come into the electromagnetic spectrum, is the way you will be able to detect them. So they do have the ability to materialize visibly for you to see them. And so that's the second way. The third way is that they actually speak to you or through you mentally, through the mental reservoir. And this is through sometimes genetics, because your genes have a frequency and has a vibration and a sound. And if you know the sound, or you know the station by which the sound is transmitted on, you can intercede in that transmission from the genetic communication through your nervous system, which is all a chemical reaction through your brain to your brain, and your brain translates the chemical reactions, right, that you think are physical, is actually just neurotransmitters that's sending information the same way a computer does. And if you're able to intercede inside of that communication, then you can communicate with the person or the being that you want to pass that knowledge onto. And so that's the third way. And so with our Father, he has incarnations, and this is why he's able to address so many different topics and various on so many different subjects, depending on what being is relaying the information to us, and what schools of thought by which our transformation is needed, the information that is needed for our transformation. So through the stages of our learning over the last 40 years, you see in specifically in a book called The Man from Planet Risk, he goes through these the stages by which he was taught, and the stages by which these extraterrestrial beings from the heavens, right, chose him or as a plan to for your race. So I think at the point we were talking about was him at one of the incidents that we addressed, right, was when he was coming home, one of his earliest encounters on October 12th, 1955, right, at the age of 10, when he was in Teaneck, New Jersey, right, in Teaneck, New Jersey. He was at a bus stop, and he said how he explained there was a bright light. So those that, just before I move forward, those that missed the last episode, or want to know where we're picking up from the last episode. So after this, go back to the previous episode in part one, where episode 8. So as he was walking home, he was coming from the bus stop. He said he experienced a bright light above him, and what was called what we call a kabadon, which is a craft. That's one of the ways these beings travel. They have it in their biblical text, and even in the Quran, they talk about it. How the will within the will, Ezekiel's will. They talk about a whirlwind that was going up. It speaks about oftentimes they were hidden in clouds. These crafts, these beings that come intergalactically, they come in clouds as well, and hide behind clouds. We have a book called Mystery Clouds Are They UFOs? You'll find many incidents in the Exodus where it says the Lord appeared to the children of Israel in a cloud. So they come into, and the reason they come in these specific crafts is because, which we have to address how they travel as well. I don't want to go back and forth in so many different topics. I'm trying to keep it so we can be clear. But the crafts themselves, we will address how they travel, and how they travel from one point across the universe to another point faster than the speed of light. It's because of Mafkuzet and the usage of dark matter, and the energy that exists in dark matter that's on the other side of hydrogen, which is undetectable. These beings in their advanced technology are able to transmit one area of space, right, and transport it to the back part of their crafts from the front to the back, where it looks as though they're moving at such a high speed, but really they're creating a disproportionate area of dark matter from one area in the front of the craft to the back. And so this is why when certain incidents of UFOs, they'll say, well, the UFO was stopped and then it zipped off and it just disappeared at lightning speed. This is the technology that they have. This is what the Father has explained to us. And these beings have this technology and is introducing it to certain human beings and governments on the planet, right? And this is how they keep control of certain populations, because of technology that they receive from these beings. Some are good, some are evil, some are here for the resources of the planet. So these beings that our Father, right, at a young age, at the age of 10, was in contact with, they came in a craft, and from this craft, these several beings came out of this particular craft, small size. They're known as your grays. They had big eyes, big black eyes, large heads. A lot of these grays, they don't have genitals. The reason they don't have genitals is because they don't mix the same way youth would mix genetically. They don't, what do you call, copulate through sexual intercourse, and so they don't even, a lot of them don't even have mouths. When you see grays, you see the depictions of these extraterrestrials. They won't be able, they don't know where these beings are from. You have to be taught where these beings are from. The Father's teaching has taught us through several publications where these beings are from. This is why I'm able to explain it. So when he talks about the grays, he says the grays, they have slits in their mouths, because and they don't really eat. You don't see them partaking of food. Their digestive systems are they don't have digestive systems the way that we have. They don't have genitals the way that we have. That's why when you see grays and they have those uniforms, most of the time you don't see the genitals, you don't see breasts, because they're bred genetically. And they're bred genetically because they're what do you call, EBEs, right? Which is extraterrestrial biological entities. Yeah, when this is an acronym for extraterrestrial biological entities, and what that means is that a lot of them are genetically bred in laboratories to be workers, also to scout various planets and to go for jobs of higher races. So that's why when they come to the planet, they'll have extraterrestrials encounters with these beings, and the witnesses with that will say, well, they talk to me telepathically, they communicated with me to give me a message, or they came to the planet to scout the various species on the planet and to take tests on the atmosphere to see if the atmosphere is conducive to certain species who want to come later. The Anunnaki did this as well. The Riskians also do this with these biological entities. Some of them have been captured and enslaved by evil races such as the Aldebarans, and you'll find that information in Extraterrestrials in Creation. Well, these beings came to. Oh, let me get back. I'll tell you why they come to him. He explains why they came to him, right? When you see that the beings with the black eyes, I think we got cut off when we talked about the mutilation. When you see mutilations, a lot of times these witnesses will say, well, I had an extraterrestrial involvement and there were crafts that came to my farm. And then when I came out in the morning, I saw mutilations of certain animals, specifically cows. And they'll look at the cows, they will examine the cows, and the cows will have their eyes removed. The cows will have their blood drained, and you will see surgical precision within these animals. And they're like, how did this happen? How are all of these cows dead, but it's no blood? It's because a lot of them, their organs were taken, right? And their eyes were taken, and the grays that they breed or genetically breed, they use the eyes and give the grays the cow's eyes. So you'll see these huge black eyes with these grays, right? Entities, and right, and people are like, that's what you see. So this is how they genetically engineer and breed these uh, scouters of the various planets. And some of them, oftentimes, when in order to eat, go into these huge vats where they bob and they absorb the nutrients through their skin. So this is why you don't see them eating. So they use the blood from different animals. They use the organs of different animals as well. So that's the grays. That's one species. Well, the grays, these beings, Salamar, Sa'at, and Krill, three beings have been coming at this particular time, came to the father, gave him certain information, talked to him. They explained to him that they've come to the planet in Kentucky. It was in September 1955 in Kentucky, explaining to him who they were and that they will be with him from time to time, right? What he said is his race, the Riskians, which is another race of beings from Ilion, the planet Risk, right, sent the Greys to assist Dr. Malachi York in his time, right, on this planet to teach our race, the Black Nagaru of this planet. His race, extraterrestrial race, sent the Greys to speak to him and assist him, right? He will often have, this is all recorded. There's people, he has a book called the Akasha Records where he speaks about this and gives very clear detail. Rahobat to everyone that are tuning in. Please share the channel, right? People are waiting. They may not have gotten the notification, so I would very much appreciate it if you share, subscribe if you haven't, and make sure you turn on your notifications. So incidences of nosebleeds would take place with the father at a young age, where he just had difficulty with these nosebleeds because of a probe. Something was placed in his body that is certain beings, just like human beings, they tag certain animals or they keep track of certain whales. Well, extraterrestrial beings, to keep up with their seed on the planet, they would do the same thing. This is why sometimes people have holes in their ear. If you have a hole in your ear here, right, typically here and here, some of them, it looks like an insertion. It looks like a needle inserted inside of the ear. And babies are born with this, sometimes a veil on their face. And the ancients, the elders would say this baby is special, was born with a veil because it can see into the future, and they would have these holes. And oftentimes you hear this high-pitched sound. Well, the father explained that certain beings already have tagged their children, and they keep in touch with you by this loud pitched noise, right? That even your volume of your ears, right, which actually the volume goes low at times. I'm sure those that have experienced it, I have experienced it, where the volume of the entire room goes down and then you hear a high pitched noise, and then it stays there. They tune in, check on you, and it fades away, and then things go back to normal. Well, that's one incident, but also they have the barotheric gland that they introduce or they reinsert into the body, right under the chin area. Your barotheric gland goes into the hippocampus area of your brain. It's actually where it's originally was inserted or originally was given, or how some are originally born, right? You have the hippocampus area of the brain where this small, let's say round like gland that connects with the endocrine system, that gives you your higher senses: psychometry, clairvoyancy, intuition, and telepathy. Now, these four higher senses are, some people have, let's say, residue of this barotheric gland in their hippocampus area, and they still have these psychic phenomenons or things that they can't explain. Oftentimes, you have it, and when you're listening to, let's say, you hear a specific song, or you're thinking about a person real hard, and all of a sudden you pick up the phone and they're calling you, or you may be thinking about your grandmother, thinking about a friend that you haven't seen in a while, and you all of it in a random place and you run into them, right? Or sometimes you may be listening, thinking about, a favorite food or something of that nature. And all of a sudden someone gives it to you. It's just so many different incidences where I'm sure all your experiences, you have a list of them. Well, these are the phenomenons that take place with those beings who still have that psychic ability. This society and system, right, shuts down this psychic ability by constantly feeding your brain and feeding your mind an overload of stimulus or stimuli, which doesn't allow you to tune in to that true nature or your true psychic self. Our father, the father, his excellency, right? The master teacher, Panabab Yanun, in his um teach or learning who he was or who he is, right, in this day and time, he had these experiences, and these beings would often have to come and assist him in his development because he was strange amongst the other siblings. He wasn't a normal being. He knew so much information. He could speak so many different languages. He could, like I told you before in the last episode, he could, like he said, it explained in Akasha Records, his abilities to run faster than most of his siblings and his classmates or his amongst his social group. He also could write faster. He could sing. He could play instruments. He could do so much. He could just was a master musician. Things that most people, he was stronger, he could jump higher. These are things that people throughout life, even up until today, have witnessed with his being. And so this is not something that is new. But in that, these are how these intergalactical beings, when they incarnate, when they teach, these are the gifts that they're given to show other human beings that they're not normal. So and they are supreme, and to help you develop the gifts that you have within you. So another thing happened as he was going through his teenage life. He met at the age of 15. He met his own race. These are the Riskians, right? They're known as Morzaku in our tongue, the Morzaku from Risk. And if you want to, someone asked me about the man from planet Risk, could we prove that this Ilion existed? Well, yes, the scientists have discovered a three-sun star system. Look it up. They've acknowledged that it exists, and you're going to have more discoveries that are taking place within these next few years that you have to be prepared for. Because as they uncover it and put it in the news, and as Congress and these other governments let it out, right, uncover these UFO files, have these UFO and extraterrestrial hearings, you'll be aware of it. It's new now. If you're just tuning in, you may not know about like the specifics of it from their side because they're not aware of who these beings are. But our doctrine, the Actual Facts podcast, will make it clear. So when you hear about it, you'll say, okay, those are draconians. Oh, wow, they're telling you about the Greys. Oh, wow, they're telling you about the Riskians or the Anunnaki. So these things will be clear. And he said we'll be ahead of everyone else when it comes to that. So at 15, he met the Marazaku, the Riskians, from a three-star sun, a three-star, three-sun system. Stars are suns, right? Where the Risk is a very, very it's like a significant planet because of how its orbit around these three suns. And it, like I said, it orbits in this particular way, right? And it goes around each orbit in such a symmetrical shape. And the way that it goes, you see in the front of our publication, some of them, you'll see a symbol, even on the crop circles, you'll see a symbol of these three circle type objects that are all shaped differently in a pyramid tetrahedron type shape. You may have seen it. Those that are following the crop circles and are interested in that phenomenon, they show you sometimes. And then there's a center, three circles in the middle, and a tetrahedron type triangle. Well, what the father explained is that this is the orbit of Rizq, and these are beings who have evolved trillions of years past us. They're etheric in their natural form, and though they do become physical, is at the time that Risk meets the center of this orbit is where beings can become Etherian. And just like you have an etheric body, etheric beings exist within this universe, the multiverse, right? Right. And they have a conscious. This is the symbol of Risk. And these beings have sent Yanun, who is an Etherian, the 19th elder of the 24 elders that you are aware of, right? And now sits at the 24th, right? And that 19th seat was responsible for raising the 144,000 on this planet so that you will be taken up when the earth goes through its turmoil, right? But you have to be educated first. You can't be taken without being taught first. And you have to be taught a doctrine known as the hereafter doctrine. Here, where after the devil has been destroyed and the planet has been wiped clean of the evils and the poisons that the Adamite race has placed inside of systems and societies, the food, etc. You have to be taken up, but you have to be taught the hereafter doctrine. You have to be given a certain amount of information so you'll know where you're going. So Nun, in his incarnation into the body of Dr. Malachi York, at the age of 15, he met these beings. And this is what he speaks about in the Akasha records. He says, as a teen, right, he was getting into regular things, trying to be with the in crowd, right? You know, when you're young, you want to be in, though you feel different. All of you probably have been through this same situation where you know you're different, you know you have a spiritual mind, you have a spiritual path that you want to follow, you just don't know how to obtain it. So in order not to be different from everyone else, you start doing whatever amongst children and bad things or negative things, whatever the case you may find yourself in, right? So at that age, his Riskians, they taught him, and he thought, and they thought he forgot. Actually, he thought he forgot about it. A lot of times, a lot of those incidents he was suppressing. So this is he met them at age of 15. He doesn't go into specifics how they came. Maybe I didn't take the notes down properly, but he did say that the being was walking next to him on the initiations into Melchizedek. He has an audio where he just talks about how Melchizedek was walking with him, a being that was tall. He had a long beard, and he just appeared to him, but he felt very comforted in his appearance. Melchizedek had met him and talked to him and told him anything that you wanted to think of or anything that you needed to know, just think of it, and I will be there, right? And he said he didn't know what he meant by that at the time. He didn't know that in him would be Melchizedek. He thought that, like anyone would, okay, well, if I think about this person will show up, or I can call him or whatever. But that's not what he was saying. He was saying as he grew into maturity and has begun to teach, he became the embodiment of this being. And this Melchizedek, right? The green one would show up and then eventually possess his body, and oftentimes in classes where he had to write or teach, this being would come forth and teach the masses, and you would hear massive amount of information come from him throughout the older classes, true light tapes. You see that you might find some of them online, where the father had taught in the early 70s and the 80s, and you'll feel the presence of this being even in the audio. And of those that had lived amongst him will also experience the presence of this being. Also, so let's move forward. I'm just covering the various incidents so we can, so we'll know what happens, and maybe it's clear on how this intergalactical being incarnated, right? So he met Sheikh Daoud in 1967. Sheikh Daoud was his mentor, right, at State Street Mosque, and he was told his name then, right? He had Yanun or Yananin, right? He says his sister Zatra and the brother Quitani took him actually at this time. They took him to Martazuk. You know, and I make reference to this the biblical text because this is the best correlation, because you've been taught religion first in the West. So they teach you that, oh, Enoch was not, for God took him. He walked with God, right? He walked with these beings, and they took him somewhere. They don't tell you where they took him. Only in the book of Enoch will you find the incidents that he went and talked to these beings in this heavenly abode. Well, this happens. It's not something that is that is foreign. All cultures speak about beings being taken up. You had whole civilizations where they say, well, the Mayans were taken up or they disappeared. The Nathar, the beings of ancient Mehmet, came down and spoke, raised this certain group of beings and raised them up and took them to the heavens. They say Yahshua was taken to the heavens. Literally, he was taken up physically into the heavens, into these various star systems. These beings will take you if you're worthy, but you have to purify yourself. You have to eliminate yourself of the Adamite's world. You have to eliminate yourself of religious doctrines that have spoiled your mind and has rotted the planet to where people are lost and have regressed back to beast-like beast-like animals. So he was taken to risk where, right, Marzuk risking it, right, a risk as on risk as a, they call him Ma'alayan or Ma'alian, which is Ilion in our tongue, right? And they downloaded this information in his being, 76 trillion years of knowledge, of time in his mind. And you can find that in Man from Planet Risk. If you're interested in it, email me. So this is where he received this download. Right. So walking home one night again, a Mukwan being dressed in all black with a black beard. This was El Khidr, right? And that he will become a teacher of many. That when we went over the last episode where we spoke about this Melchizedek, Melchizedek not only came to and taught our father, Panabab Yanun, but you'll see many instances as we went over in the Quran as well, where he taught Moses in Quran 18, 60, chapter verse 66. And then we talked about Melchizedek teaching Yahshua. So Melchizedek is the teacher of Horus or Rehar Akatwi or Christ or Jesus, as you know him as the translators mistranslated Yahshua, as you know him as Isa in the Arabic, as you know him as the being of 2,000 years ago that was then and the one that has come in this day and time. So Melchizedek will teach this being and raise this being up because he's always been a student of Melchizedek. And Michael is here in flesh in the personage of Dr. Malachi Z. York, right? As Panabab Yanun, as Ariskian, as Tehutwi. And we'll go over Tehutwi's 9 doctrines that was your doctrine before you adopted religion. He taught 9 doctrines: the doctrine of polarity, the doctrine of gender, the doctrine of breathing, the doctrine of correspondence, the doctrine of rhythm. These are doctrines that govern the universal laws that are intransgressible, that you can't get away from. And these are doctrines that Zahutwi has taught for the initiates into the sacred orders, specifically the ancient Egyptian order, which was established again by our father as Amanube Ra'ak Fatah Zetwi. In this day and time, he established the AO order and those orders for us to be recalibrated with that our true ancient doctrine before religion. So religion has a creation story that they teach, but you have to know your the natural or true existence of creation within the multiverses that our ancestors was in responsible for manifesting material world, right? That they teach, and the doctrines of correspondence, the doctrine of breathing, all of those we'll go through in a minute. But however, when you talk about Melchizedek, Melchizedek is the being from Mesopotamia. That's not necessarily Mesopotamia, but it was introduced through Mesopotamian culture, right, and came into Africa as Ningizida, right, born from Heset and Inki, right. This is a being that speaks through the Father, but these beings are here to raise you. He's here to teach you and raise you up. Those that will make it, you will make it. Those that won't make it, you just won't make it. And it's not something that, it's not a religious thing. It's not a good or bad thing. It's a genetic thing. It's a genetic doctrine. It's a genetic calling that you have to have within your genes programmed already, that where this doctrine rekindles the deity in you. And you say, wow, this makes so much sense. I've always had this questions. I've always felt the divine presence. There's thousands of you out there that need it, except this is that you're hidden. You're in the crevices of religion. You're in the crevices of different societies. That's why I'm saying, as you hear this transmission or this lecture, your job listening is to pass it on for those that you may, right? Because you may be utilized to for others to get the information as well, the ones that in your circle that you have to teach, because as you become a god in this doctrine, you are responsible for teaching others. And that's how the family of Panathardo, your ancestors, will be gathered in this day and time. And so we're going to do it through this platform, and because we have a job to do, and that's connect to our father, make sure he comes home so that we can build our kingdom, right, and prepare for what's about to take place on this planet. So when you move, let's move forward. So as he says, he was taken up many times over the years and have met many extraterrestrials, other intergalactical beings, right? Over of many worlds. His world and his world called Yanin from Mikai planet, where Morzaku, Riskians, Etherians from a tri-star galaxy or system comes from. 9, right? I'm just going down his incidents. He made contact. Now, this is the me stones. Wow, this is deep. Just follow me on this. And any questions? Okay, yeah. Someone asked a question. Let's see here. Yes, there will be an episode on what's to come to the earth. It's called Let's Talk About the End. Wow. Okay, so you've seen an episode, documentary that mentioned krill. Interesting. Is there going to be an episode on what's to come to earth? Yes, they will. Can you explain what our inner being is in relation to Zahutri's vision and different practices we can do to connect? Okay, great. Okay, I will. Your inner being is the real you, right? The inner being is the real being, the real you that you go to sleep with at night. The one that no one you where there's no mask you have to wear for society, right? The etheric part of you, the part of you that speaks out to you to tell you that there's more to existence than what you're just doing on your everyday schedule. Eating, going to work, socializing a little bit, coming back from work, making money. These are mundane, physical, dense activities that doesn't feed the spirit or soul. And so your spirit and soul talks or speaks to you because it needs to be fed as well. And that's why your rituals, your prayers, your chants that you have in your way of life, Wu Sabat, right? Those that want the actual facts, that want the affirmation, you have a real way of life. You have a culture that you have to be reintroduced to. And that is what your soul is looking for. So you have to be fed this information so your soul can develop. Because if you were to transition, many people transition now or are dying now, right? And they're not spiritually mature, meaning that you'll be born in the spiritual world, and because your spiritual body has been stunted because you haven't fed it the same way. If you don't feed the physical body, it's stunted in growth, or you're born prematurely, you're not fully developed. You can be born the same way in the spiritual world, and that's why you have to get this knowledge now. Religion taught the opposite. They said when you go to right? When you die or you judgment day, then you'll encounter a spiritual world and judgment, right? But as of now, you don't need that. You'll get your pie in the sky when you die. They don't teach your spiritual practice now, so your spiritual body can be developed and your sakamat, your powers are available. So when you do shed the physical body in that world, you'll be strong enough to not go into the light, right? Where the beings that you are, your ancestors that exist in pure bliss and pure darkness exist, right? You'll be able to blend right in the spiritual world, void of the physical body, yet still experience and enjoy other worlds. So this is the inner you that needs this affirmation. That's why the Father's here. He's interested in the spiritual part of you as a spiritual master, because your spiritual body is what needs development. Your physical is already developed. You've already grown as much as you're going to grow. Most of us, those that are adults. The only thing that's going to take place is the aging process. However, if you're taught the right doctrine as a spiritual being, right? What happens is your spiritual body will be fed to a point where now it can affect the spiritual, where you can stop aging, where you'll be eating the right foods that will prevent your biological age, that will cleanse your body inside and out, which makes you a stronger spiritual self and a stronger soul, right? And then you'll be relinked back to your ancestors. So this is your job short period that we have on the planet to teach you all in order for you to be prepared, right? Because you don't have a lot of time. We have to do this before 2030. We're already in 2026. 2025 is gone. So now we're on the other side of the decade. The previous side was COVID. Now we're moving on the other side of the decade. By 2030, things are going to be totally different on the planet. And it's not a doomsday conversation. These are actual facts because this is the second half hour. There was silence in the heavens for an hour, they says in the book of Revelations, from 1970 to the year 2000. Yes, he was. Yahshua was. He was part extraterrestrial, but he was part mortal as well. Right. And we'll have a class. We have a lecture on that. We have a lecture that will be lecture on the 27th of December, where we'll cover Yahshua's entire life. We'll cover the lost years. We're going to cover the outformation that he learned. We're going to cover his incarnation in this day and time. We're going to cover who he is and how he has returned in this day and time. And people are not aware of that, who he has been taught by, who he has been raised by, right? And what he will teach. He will teach you how to connect back to the Father. He will teach you how to transform yourself. But you have to be willing to listen, because the last time he incarnated, right, you didn't accept him, right? Because you looked at him as a regular man and you didn't accept the doctrine that he taught. The same way in this day and time, right? When in his return, he will be taught and teach as a man, as a being, incarnating into a physical body. So you have to be prepared for that, because time is of the essence. Will he be revealed? For those that know, those that need to know, he will be revealed to you, right? But as the Father explained, a lot of you all miss Christ, miss the Messiah, because of your aggression and the way you behave towards the beings that come that are here to help, right? The miracles that they are blessed with to give you, to help you out of this situation that you're in, right? You don't know how to address it because of the aggression and the abuse, the discrimination, and the things that you have adopted from the Adamite, right? You think that you are to abuse and hurt and kill things that you don't understand. So you judge it by your own human mind. You judge it from your own human so-called morals that you picked up from a hypocritical religious God that they don't have any moral standing when it comes to human beings. So you treat people the same way the God of religion treats humans. You're quick to destroy them. You're quick to drown them. You're quick to judge them. You're quick to hate on them. You're quick to cast, right, judgment against them, and you condemn them even. You'll stone them even. You'll arrest them. You'll incarcerate them. You'll slander them. You'll gossip against them. You'll lie against them because of your belief systems, right? And so this is the difficulty when speaking to human beings, because of where you have what the Adamite has done to you in the last 400 years, breeding his evil seed into your seed, not necessarily physically, but mentally, right? Mentally, he's doing his best, and he is returning. To the question in the Mr. York House Malachi, he's doing his best. He says he's strong, and people think he's aging and he's hurt. No, the Father, his body is not human. He doesn't have a regular human body like human beings has. So he doesn't age the way human beings age because of his telomeres. He has extended telomeres, which gives him extended life. These beings have mafkuzet in their genes. This is what he was explaining that he received within his genetics, which you call mafkuzet, which is an exotic matter, a monatomic element that are in a, what do you call, a dust, or let's say powder type formula that once ingested, it corrects the human body. The 46 mistakes that you have, it corrects the errors in your being, right? It allows you to it reconfigures the DNA to where it becomes an electric conductor, right? Where you can receive the exotic matter, and with those telomeres, the extended life, that tree of life, which is a master secrets we have. You can get more information on that, right? Your telomeres are the tips of the genes that are responsible for how many times your cells rejuvenate. So within your telomeres, right? You go back to episode 1 and 2, we discussed this, but I'll briefly touch on it because this is a part of the extraterrestrial beings when they come. This is why they're able to live for thousands of years, is because at the tip of the telomeres, the genes are able, this is the encoding that allows or programs the cells of the body to replicate when they get old or when they die. This is why youthful people, they always have youthful skin, because the telomeres are saying, okay, replenish the skin, replicate the blood, duplicate the bones, the liver, the heart, right? The nervous system. All of these things rejuvenate. Some take longer than others, right? Your blood takes a certain amount of time to replenish, right? Your nervous system takes, cells take longer, so your nervous system cells take longer to heal, right? Obviously, your skin rejuvenates quick as well. You can cut your skin and then it rejuvenates, or you can uh every so often you remove the first layer of skin and then it rejuvenates over a certain, I think 30 days or so. But after a certain amount of time, your telomeres become more shortened, where it tells the body, okay, it slows up the rejuvenation process. And this is why you begin to look old and begin to age, because now the cells are not duplicating as fast because your telomeres are not as extended. But what if I told you that the Father has explained that these beings have extended telomeres where their genes will replicate hundreds and hundreds of times? And then you live to be hundreds of years old into the thousands, because it's just a telomere structure. And that can be reintroduced into your blood. But you can't live. What will be the point of living long or living that type of life if your mind is not cleansed? Everything has to be cleansed for you to receive that gift. Not everyone will be able to receive that. And that's why it says you will have everlasting life. When you read the book of Revelations, for those that accept that book, it says that your sickness, no more death, no more sickness, because they saw death as a sickness. The Father teaches us that these beings, when they learning sickness, and I mean learning death, and has surpassed death, is because they've conquered death, because they know that you don't die from natural causes. Natural causes is not a real thing. Person says, oh, right, um when you have a when you have a certain amount of uh information about the body. Someone just I saw your question, Tiger. That's what I was thinking about when you typed it in. Right. I'll get to that if I remember. Just remind me. Right, about the cats. Right. So the question is, Rahobat, do animals, cats, for those that are listening, animals, cats help rejuvenation and healing? Right. I'll address that because the Father gave us an update about those, about cats and animals. Well, when you have these beings have learned about death, they learned that people say, well, he died of natural causes. Then you say, well, what happened? His heart stopped. Then that's not natural. Or he stopped breathing. That's not natural. Right. They just didn't wake up. So death is a sickness. There's things that happens to you that causes things in your body to stop. What if that is prevented, or you can prevent those things from stopping, then you can prevent death. So this is what that means, where he says that they don't die. So these beings have surpassed that, and they're billions of years more advanced, so they can teach you that technology. They won't teach the Adamite this. They won't teach the Caucasoid race these things, because their lords have cut them off. Their deities have cut them off from that information, because then they had the information and they had the technology, they misused it and abused other races amongst on the planet. And so because of that, their dominion they were only given 6,000 years to rule, and that rule stopped or halted in 2000. So I'm not sure. I was just thinking about that question about the, let's say, animals or cats help rejuvenation. The father explained that you shouldn't have cats around, though cats had a divine purpose because of their intellect. And he spoke about the feline, which is the feminine, and the gracefulness of cats, the speed of a cat, the intellect of a cat, right? And their significance to ancient Egyptians. But he said that the healing part, I don't want to misquote. I'll get that update for you. I'll address that update because he gave a specific update about cats. And he speaks about cats all the time. You see them. Bastet with the cat was a feline deity, and they typically represented the nature of a cat having kittens and having the nurturing ability and the protective nature of cats. So but the healing part, I'm not sure, but I'll definitely get the answer to you on that. So just remind me in one of the comments or something. I'll address it. I have an entire list of updates where the father gives up over the years, and when being away, not away, but where he is physically, so many updates as it relates to cats. But I'll pull it up. But that's a very good question. So let's finish. Any other questions? You can put it in chat, because we touched on quite a bit. Oh, Jesus being an alien, yes, he was. He did. He had extraordinary powers, extra powers, and he had extraterrestrial DNA that he was not really aware of. Melchizedek, Michael, Marduk, Yanun, right? Zahutwi Ningizida had to teach him about that, about his powers. And he actually became one, or had a portion of his father in him, which gave him those extraordinary abilities. And once he became one with the Father, he shared a portion of the power given to him by the Father, a portion of the glory given to him by the Father. And most people won't make it or can't get to the Father unless you go through this particular being. Because having access to the Heavenly Father in your state, and you're not cleansed and you're not purified, you won't be able to have access to him. That's just not how it's going to work. You won't have access directly to the heavens in that way. So you had to have a mediator between you and Panatharu, right? Because of the abuse and the things that has taken place to our father, to the father, right? He's not going to have uh you're not going to have just direct walk up to him like you did before, when he was here and walking the planet free, right? People abused him. They disrespected him. Even they still doing it to this day. So no one will have access to the Father like before. It's just not going to happen. That's not going to happen that way. And you definitely won't be able to make it to the heavens in that way. So you need that, you need that being to allow you, or to vouch for you in the last days and times. He has to vouch for you, for you to have access. As you see on the walls of Mekmet, you see Horus would be standing in front of Asar. And when Horus stood in front of Asar, he would stand in the hall of mortals, right, to vouch for the mortals who purified themselves, or was able to make it into a just judgment because their good deeds outweighed their bad. And this being was responsible for that, to guarding the gate of the Heavenly Father in that way, as his son, as always he has. The Yahshua was a being, right? The wind, or let's say the soul that was coming from the Father in original creation. And then you'll find that information out in Zahutwi's vision. But we'll get more into detail, in depth, about that creation story of Atum, right? And the panspermia, the seeding of the planet, and this being Harar or Horus, right? Coming from this being in the image and after the likeness of the Father, and being a part or one with the Father. As you read where it says, I and my Father are one, he took on a portion of the Father. When people saw him, they saw a replica or duplication or an image of God in flesh, because they couldn't see the Father at the time, right? And so That's what you'll experience. So the question is, Robert, religions may differ, but most of them agree on one point. The pig. Okay, why is the pig considered evil? Okay, so any other questions? The pig, the pig is not considered evil. It's considered uh the genetics or the breeding of the pig was for a specific purpose, right? For cleaning the planet. It was the consumption of the pig that caused disease and allowed bacteria and viruses to enter the body, which would be considered evil for you to do to your body by consuming the pig. The pig in itself is not an evil being. Actually, the pig is quite intelligent because it was combined with a cat, a dog, and a rat. It was genetically bred by one of the scientists of ancient Makmet, Egypt, to clean up the filth left by the Caucasoids in the areas where they weren't burying their dead. A lot of the old, uh, let's say, uh, let's say, let's say pre, let's say uncivilized. I'll use that word. I have to watch what I say, right? Uncivilized individuals, uncivilized races, or uncivilized people, they would just their dead would die from diseases. They would just leave them to rot in the sun or rot in the not bury them. They didn't have any funeral rites. They didn't understand what burial is, or let's say burying a person 6 feet deep in order to eliminate other animals, digging them up, eating the carcasses, the smell, eliminate the smell. That's why they would go a certain amount of feet. So at the time, this the filth was causing a spread of disease and leprosy in the Caucasus areas, Caucasoid Mountains. You see that's up in Turkey and which is called Haran, old Haran, Turkey today, in the Mesopotamian and Fertile Crescent, right? And so they bred this cat, dog, and a rat in order to they fused this genes. They were geneticists, right? They fused the genes, right? They were spreading all kinds of diseases, maggots, and rodents and stuff. So they needed an animal who would be one smart enough to avoid being eaten by these Canaanites, right? Mukasu there, strong enough to withstand the journey, and intelligent and filthy enough to withstand the diseases by which eating of this rotten flesh and cleaning up the filth. So they used a cat, which was intelligent enough to avoid being captured. They used a dog, which was strong enough to endure the work, the labor, the trip, right? And a rat, filthy enough, that will be immune to the various diseases. So they fused these animals over a period of time, and they were offshoots that were created from this genetic breeding, like the boar, the aardvark, right? The wild boar, the aardvark, you see, and then this pig, right? This pig, right? Zoser, you're absolutely right. Zoser did the experiment. And so this is left with this pig animal. And so it's intelligent. So people have pigs, they have them on farms, etc., but they're not for consumption. They don't have sweat pores, so they can't eliminate any toxins out of their body. They don't have the digestive system that most animals have. They can eat anything, fecal matter. They can eat old maggots. They can eat trash. They have a vein at the back of their, I think, hind leg that all oozes pus out all the time, right? It's other significant characteristics of the pig, such as the trachea worm that is in its blood, that if you eat it, it can attack your brain and cause paralysis, cause death. A lot of people that eat those animals, they don't cook pork. They may eat pork half raw, whatever the case. I don't know how they partake of it, but it just causes a bunch of disease. When you do that to your body, you cause evil to yourself because you're allowing bacteria and things to enter your body. So a lot of animals are poisonous and shouldn't be eaten. Goats necessarily shouldn't be eaten. When you look eat and go, people eat all kinds of animals. I mean, that's a part of the behavior that the Caucasoid introduced to you because their overlords taught them to eat red flesh, red blood, and flesh and blood and things of that nature. So you've adopted those characteristics. That's not something we normally typically had to do. We had such in our environment in Afafre Kau, Africa, in our Caribbean islands and places that are tropical where we were bred. We had an environment where everything was provided for us. The food was the fruits and vegetables that was available. You would never go hungry. So it wasn't necessary to kill animals. It wasn't a need because you would be full. Bananas was free, pears was free, watermelon, right? Pineapples, these fruit plants were herbs that were in such an abundance, they were huge. I'm talking about pineapples this big. I've seen some right here in Ghana. I seen a postcard where they had these huge. I was like, pineapples could grow this big. Watermelons huge. Bananas. I mean, it was just so abundant they would fall off the tree and regrow. So it wasn't a need to eat animal flesh. That was introduced by the Anunnaki because they were flesh eaters because of their reptilian type behaviors and the race that by which they descended from. So that was introduced biblically. And you see it introduced in Genesis under the Cain and Abel story, where Cain and Abel were tested by this Lord, right, from this being known as Nanar, one of the Anunnaki, the sons of Enlil, who requested a sacrifice or tested them to see which sacrifice would be best. And of course, he accepted the sheep, right, because it says Abel was a sheep herder, right? He tilled the farm. So the question is, if human beings were meant to be herbivores, as it says that herbs and plants shall be your meat, who was Abel herding the farm for? Right? Why was he herding animals? Is because these beings that were responsible for introducing blood animal sacrifices and things of that nature into the Adamite as a test of their obedience to prevent them from being eaten, they had to offer up animals and human beings. And this is throughout Mesopotamia. This is not anything new. It's just your Bible doesn't speak about it. The biblical the references, they don't touch on it because of fear that you'll find out about who those lords and gods were. And you go through the temples in Mesopotamia, like the Temple Baalbek. We discussed this before. You'll see these huge altars where these agreements and covenants were made. The same thing happened with Abraham. He had an agreement or covenant was made with Abraham, right? And you'll see it was done at an altar. Altars where you make sacrifices come down to the altar. So that's what took place. So in reference to the pig animals, that wasn't something that we partook of. So any other questions? I think we got into a question thing here, which is not a problem. Put your questions in. Remind me, there was some questions that were requested that if I don't remember, just remind me here. Right? Okay. So let's get to this. Okay. Yeah. It's Thoth Dr. York and it's Thoth Inky's son. Thoth is not Inky's son. Ningizida is Inky's son. Right? Well, okay, let's say this. Thoth is Ningizida. They are one and the same, except that the incarnation happens over a different period of time, right? So let's read this about Tahutwi so you'll know exactly, because we'll go back over that. Tahutwi and who he is, right? Since you're asking about Tahutwi. Oh, the ley lines. Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's go to Zahutwi's vision 4. Zahutwi being a man from planet Risk in the 19th galaxy called Iliun. He has no mother or no father, beginning of days nor end of days. He is also known as Melchizedek El Kidder, Rahma, Yanun El Kupt, the spokesman of the deities. So, yes and no, in a sense, these names are names or titles for the same being. However, these beings, when they incarnate at different periods of time, they pick on or take on different names depending on the culture by which he incarnates in. So if he incarnates every few thousand years, every 24,000 years, the name will be different depending on the language by which the people are recording the event and recording the experience with this being. And that's why the beings' names, various beings over time change in different cultures. You see like Michael, you'll see Melchizedek, you see Marduk, depending on Sumerian language, cuneiform, depending on the Akkadian, depending on the Chaldean, depending on the English. You see how it translates. So it's a yes and no in that sense. So, but Thoth as Zahutwi, where they get the word thought from, right? As a Hutui is you see, as we discussed last week, is represented as a man with the head of an ibis bird, which they use as a dove and other relations. So yes and no, but Ningizida is the son of Enki, but also Zahutwi as well, which you Zahutwi and on the side of Nathar, which is Thoth, is the son of Reye and Reyetet. So these are this same being, he has to be born through a physical body and has to be born through parents. Just like you may have lived other lives before. However, your parents that's in this life are not the same parents. And therefore, your parents in this life would not have named you the same as the parents in the other life. So though you're the same being etherically, you have two different names because you come from two different time zones, from two different cultures or two different parental lines. But they typically incarnate inside of the genes of a being that stems way back from the same bloodline. And this is how in ancient Mekmet in Egypt, the pharaohs, they would take on the name of the deity because they were related to the deity. And in that relation, the being would incarnate inside of the pharaoh and he would take the seat of the deity or represent the deity in that day and time. That's why the pharaoh was venerated in amongst his people. They say they would say such and such deity Harar. They would have Harar or Zahutwi on the name, right? Or let's say Atum on the name, or Gabab, or they have the names of the deity by which they were related to, if they were related, or if that deity's seed was still on the planet, then a lineage of rulership will be passed down from bloodline to bloodline, from deity, from pharaoh to pharaoh, etc., Aphrodite to Aphrodite, and even through the mitochondria, through the feminine as well. It happened on both bloodlines. So this is when you ask if Zahutwi, the son of Enki, not in that sense of, and it depends on the time by which you're talking about the incarnation takes place. Because remember, he has no mother or father. So though he would, in order to take on a body of the being, that body would have to be born through a mother and father. But Ningizida is from Nibiru as the son of Heset and Enki. Yes, they were female pharaohs, of course. Hatshepsut is one. We'll get it. We're going to cover that in next the 9th, actually. Look at the schedule in the post. You'll see what's coming up. And Zahutwi from Orion, Sirius, the son of Reyetet and Reye. So I hope that's clear. But now, because he was the wise teacher of Mekmet, he was known as the serpent river and a healer. But let's continue. Any other questions? And have you shared? I hope you've shared the channel and joined. So let's get into this. Exactly. He had many titles. Tawatek, elder. Thought was the title. That when you see, that's where they get the word, like we discussed before, um, thought, because over the mental reservoir, he was the teacher of those 9 doctrines. Oh yeah, let's since we're talking about Tahutu, let's address those 9 doctrines while we're on it. Now, the doctrine of these are the 9 doctrines that Tahutu taught, right? As a great wise man and a deity of the Nile River, the river Nile that's spoken of in Ezekiel. You'll see that this river being, right, or this pharaoh of Egypt, who was ruler of the Nile. This Nile doctrine that was established by Zahutwi is of 9, and these doctrines are specifically given to the Nagardanet race, and the wisdom that's given to us are from our ancestors as it relates to this creation, the creation of the universe, the creation of the multiverses, and the actions that take place and the phenomena that are naturally occurring throughout the of existence. There's no such thing, I would say non-existence, but there is no such thing as non-existence. So these are the principles by which the students would lean upon to have the wisdom of Zahutwi, so you'll understand what he came to teach. Just a small portion of what he came to teach. The doctrine of the mental, the doctrine of correspondence, the doctrine of vibration, the doctrine of polarity. You also have the doctrine of rhythm, the doctrine of cause and effect, the doctrine of gender, the doctrine of growth and creation, and the doctrine of breathing. Now we'll briefly go through this. Real, it's because it's kind of long, and we have other subjects to. We have time, but you literally the doctrine of Tahuti we could take literally years to go over. It's not something that can be addressed very fast, but I'll just give you a quick breakdown of each of those doctrines as he related to us in flesh in this day and time, reintroduced to us in flesh in this day and time. So the doctrine of mental is that all is mental and each has a mind, right? Tahuti teaches that each mind is fed from the same mental reservoir, which which enables each person, each being to grasp the laws of the mental, right? And to apply the same to his or her well-being and advancement. So the doctrine of mental is that all is mental. We all have a mind that we connect to, right? And in that, it means that though you are connected etherically to the mental abode, when you possess or take in the thoughts, it becomes mind, M-I-N-E. So you think that your mind, M-I-N-D, has your own or my own thoughts or thoughts that are mine, when actually the thoughts are not yours. The thoughts are given to you from the mental reservoir, which you cover and change in the way that you choose, right? This is why human beings can't think of anything new, because you haven't reached into the mental abode, which Zahutwi is over as a etheric being that's responsible for the releasing of the outformation into the subconscious or the conscious minds of human mortals on the planet. So Zahutwi allows those beings who are advanced enough to access other areas of intellect within the mental abode. But the phenomena exist across the globe. When you look at a car, all cars are the same. They basically have the same. That's a creation that people have. That people have coded. They have the car idea, and then they change it and paint it the way that they want as my own idea. Yet there's nothing necessarily new under the sun. But there's outformation that's coming from beyond the sun that only a being can bring from beyond the stars, which is Zahutwi, the doctrine of correspondence. There's always correspondence between laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life between things. We touched on this on the spiritual abode, the episode 4, where we talked about this spiritual abode exists. Check it out in the lives, or check it out in the video section of the channel. We have 3-hour discussion about the spiritual abode. Well, the spiritual abode, the doctrine of correspondence, is the same principle applies with the as above, so below, or as what do you see above, really, which is actually not necessary. You hear people say it, but it's not necessarily the case, because there is no direction within the multiverse. As above, so below. What? As above what? Above who? You? There is no, what's above to you is below to someone else. What's below to you is above to someone else. So there's not really an above or below, right? There's corresponding planes that merge within each other that are in correspondence. A direction is only used by the person that is perceiving it, not by the actual existence of the planes or the abodes themselves. There is no up, there is no down. That's only relative to matter. Matter dictates up or down. Direction of you being relative to another mass, right, on the planet, going to and fro, east and west, up and down, that's only mass. But in the spiritual abode, that doesn't exist. So the doctrine of correspondence is what the Zahutwi, the master of wisdom, teaches and allows you or helps you to understand the corresponding effects of those various planes all the way down to the physical, which you are on or corresponding with others as well. So that's doctrine number 2. Doctrine 3 is the doctrine of vibration. Now, what he explains here is that everything is in motion, everything moves. Some things, some material matter is moving so fast that it looks solid. Like he gave the example with a wheel. You can spin a wheel so fast, the spokes will appear to be solid. Yet you can tell it's each individual spoke. That's the speed of the vibration is so fast that it appears, well, the same thing is happening with, let's say, something as dense as iron. When you have iron, right? When you have iron, feels dense, though it feels solid, but the actual opposite is true. It's vibrating at such a fast, high speed or high rate that it appears to be solid, but it's actually not. It's just atoms, right? Molecules, electrons, protons, right? The nucleus of an atom moving at such a fast rate that it appears to be solid. So you can slow the vibration up or speed it up. It just depends on the corresponding material matter to determine a vibration. So vibration, everything is moving. So this is his doctrine that he elaborates on. I'm just touching the surface. I'm not trying to explain it because only Zahutwi can really give the details of these doctrines, but know that these doctrines do exist, right? So when he says that the vibration of a spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidity that it is practically at rest, just as a rapidly moving wheel stems to be motionless because of the things work in because all things work in cycles as a serpent with a tail in its mouth. So the cycle of vibration movement all creates the illusion that things are solid, creates the illusion that things are liquid, creates the illusion that things are or air, right? But the same principle, if you use water, a liquid, at such a high speed or vibration, it can literally cut through steel. So that's how you know that it just depends on the rate of vibration and the speed and the frequency of an object. Because water at its standstill is, right, it's almost invisible. And we had this conversation before. Someone said water is not invisible. I'm like, water is invisible. You don't see water. And we'll get into that. Those that just ponder upon that for a second. You don't see water, you don't see air, right? You feel them, but you don't see them. You see, because they were created before color, which is the doctrine. You find that out, right, in the doctrine of natural ether energy, actual fact, I think 33, where the father speaks about the creation of, no, it's not in there. It's in, I think, ultimate reality. Don't quote me on that, but it's in one of the master secrets where he speaks about the creation of color. So there's material matter or elements that came before color, like air and water, which is why they are invisible. So, but the point is this: water in a standstill, motionless, is harmless. It's still, it's relaxing. But you speed up its vibration, it can cut through steel. This falls into the doctrine of vibration. Doctrine of 4, which is the doctrine of polarity. The doctrine of polarity is this: existence has no dual. People think that things are opposite, or let's say polarity, extremes, hate, love, cold, hot, right? Degrees of polarity, right? People think these are opposites when it's actually the father teaches, the Hutui teaches that they're not opposite, they're the same thing on various degrees. Because you can't tell where you like a thing and dislike. You can't tell at the point where you stop loving and begin to hate, or you stop liking and begin to dislike. The degrees move at such a infinite frequency or infinite movement that it tends to go back and forth like a pendulum between each other. So this is why the relationships or things that you enjoyed at one time, you may begin to dislike, and things that you dislike, you may begin to enjoy, or things that you hate, you may begin to say, okay, it's okay. I like that. I didn't like it at first. I hated vegetables, but now my body shows, so this is the doctrine of polarity. Now, but each of these extremes exists on one plane or exists on one foundation or exists within existence. And these are the poles by which those two extremes between those degrees vary as they move along in the physical realm. We all succumb to these physical laws, and these laws have been intransgressible and in existence for as long as existence has existed, which is infinite, because even in existence, time is created, which is the material world, denoting a record of how long a measurement of a particular existence has been around. This is what time is. So within this existence, time is created. So there is no real such thing as time. So that's something that he talks about here as well. But the polarity is the everything has a pair of opposites, as he explains, which is actually a trick. Now, why does he say that is a trick? Because polarity, everything doesn't have an opposite. People teach that. Religion teach that good and evil. That's a doctrine of the religious world, that the opposite of good is evil. Just like they say the opposite of darkness is light. There is no opposite of darkness, because darkness there's no degrees of darkness. You can't have partially darkness. It's partially dark. No, partially dark is another way of saying there's light that's infringing upon absolute darkness. And because light is limited, meaning you can cut off the light. You can turn the light off, right? You can't turn off and on darkness. So they're not opposite. Just like there is no ending of darkness where light begins. That doesn't exist. Light is limited, and therefore it's confined. And in its confining, it is defined. And as it's defined, it can be controlled. You can't control darkness. Darkness is absolute. Darkness has always been. Within darkness, things are born out of. So this is the principle of what the Father speaks about in one of the doctrine of polarity, when he goes into detail about it in more detail in Sacred Wisdom of Tehuti and other AO, other doctrine, other information or publication that he's written. So the doctrine of rhythm. The doctrine of rhythm is one of his doctrine, one of the doctrines of Tehuti that he teaches. It speaks about everything manifesting as a measured motion to and fro, flow in and flow out, swinging back and forth, the pendulum swing. What comes in must go out. What goes out must come in. This is the doctrine of rhythm. So this is intransgressible. When I say intransgressible, the Father is saying that you can't undo any of these laws. Everyone partakes of these laws. Doesn't matter who you are in the universe, in existence. When in the physical world, the doctrine of in the physical world, the doctrine of rhythm is applied across the board. There's always an action to an reaction, and always a reaction to an action. But then, there's a cause of each action, which is another point of existence where the mental, you see, controls the cause and effect. So the doctrine of rhythm is succumb on the lower abodes. What does that mean? That if I cause an action, then there's a reaction. But who is the cause of the cause is the question. Who's responsible for causing the cause, and who's responsible for causing the action? So there's a 3-point pyramid there, right? On the lower abode, the to and fro, back and forth exist in the physical plane, but then there's a mental where the cause of the cause that's outside of the physical laws that are governed by this doctrine of rhythm. So those that are masters are not pulled back and forth. And that's where you as a God you have to learn, as a deity, you have to learn how to polarize yourself where you're not being moved back and forth between human beings' emotions. That's how this is how the Caucasoid learned to control you as a race. He has placed you in between his cause and effect. He has caused you to believe in a being that can affect you at a particular time in your life, that has allowed you in between to sway back and forth with emotions and fear and what anxieties, concerns, all of that. He has allowed, you have placed yourself in between that swing. So this is the religious war. Everything is, I like this, I don't like this. You caught up on what you feel, what you don't feel, who you love, who you hate. All your decisions are based upon those degrees or that rhythm, right? And each area of existence of interactions with other human beings, you find yourself going back and forth. When you meet a person, you always have to check to see if you like or dislike them. If you like what they're wearing, if you don't like what they're wearing. If you like what you hear, you don't like what you hear. If they treat you right or if they don't treat you right. Your whole existence is in between those two back and forths. Look at it, goes through relationships. If your wife talked to you nice today, she spoke to you today, she fed you today, you okay. If your husband paid the bills today, you like that. If he didn't pay, you're going this way. So human beings are caught in this to and fro, and you don't know. You have to place yourself somewhere in an area where you are in control of whether you move to either side. And that's when you become God again. So these are one of the doctrines that the master teaches us that we must do within ourselves, control and learn how to apply the higher cause or the higher laws to control the lower physical that you exist on now. And that's Tahuti over he's the master of wisdom. And these are his doctrines. This is why a lot of societies was built off, most of the societies in the world was built off of this doctrine. This is how societies are controlled. That's why you see the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, the to and fro at the bottom, and the cause where to say the eye of God or the mental is controlling everything on the lower abodes and having people in the fit form. And they can control you based on your holidays. They can control you based on sports events. They can control you on what's fashion, music. All of it is based on what you like and what you don't like, or make you smile or make you cry. The face of Janus, which is what makes you laugh now, will make you cry later. They wear both of those so they can control your emotions, and you're stuck in between. So this is the doctrine of rhythm that the Father said we must master. Tahutwi, we're talking about an intergalactical being, right? So the doctrine of cause and effect. The principle embodies the fact that there's a cause for every effect, an effect for every cause. Nothing ever merely happens. There is no such thing as chance or luck. So you're not here by luck. You're not here by chance. None of it just happens. If, as he said, if things are just happens, there's something luck that just happens, then this universe will be governed by luck or chance, right? Which means that some people wouldn't have, there will be, the universe will be, what do you call, governed by accidents, because accidents are the opposite of luck. Luck is like you're unlucky. Unlucky, if you're unlucky, if the universe was governed by luck, then those that are unlucky is just by not having a chance. And if the universe was governed by things not having a chance, then nothing would be orderly. That the universe is in fit order because there's cycles of intelligence that governs how things are supposed to be by design, not by luck. So the master is saying, rise above the dominant moods, characteristics, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them. So you rise above those things and not succumb to those lower laws, and allowing yourself to be guided and moved any direction, anytime, any place, with the emotions involved, because you're at the whim of someone else's control or someone else's cause or someone else's effect or someone else's cause of a cause, right? So that's doctrine number 6. Number 7, the doctrine of gender. This doctrine embodies the truth that there are gender manifested in all things, in everything, right? And what happens, this is what it's funny, because I was having this conversation about these gender wars. They create these gender wars to create a position of authority when gender manifested, the doctrine of Tahuti, number 7, doctrine of gender. Gender manifests in everything physical and nothing spiritual. the masculine and feminine principles ever at work, right? On the physical plane, it manifests as sex, but you don't have gender as sex in the other abodes. They don't manifest as sex. Sex is the differentiating between male and female, and there are degrees in that. There are degrees between male and female, right? Just like you have extreme masculine and you have extreme feminine. And as the degrees come, you have somewhat feminine, but she kind of rough, tough. Then you have some men who are masculine, but then it's like, hey, he got a little bitch in him, right? And then you can go further down to where you come to a point where there are hermaphrodites in this degree section, where beings are born with both male and female gender, sex. So are they outside of the scope of gender? No, they're just a blend of the two. And this is a natural phenomenon, right? So in our doctrine, in doctrine of Zahutwi, as he teaches, we overstand the doctrine of gender, and we overstand how some spirit beings are born inside of a female spirit born inside of a male, and some male spirits are born inside of a female. Now, because of the hormonal exchanges and different things that take place within the body of the feminine, even at the time, a feminine could be giving birth or growing a male inside her womb, and her hormones can be secreted a high amount of estrogen, right? Because of the environment and her chemical makeup or the emotional state, and it affects the gender of the child. And so these are phenomenons in nature, not a doctrine that this is what you see in existence. And so you have to be able to grasp that and understand that they create this gender war to establish an authority to say, well, man is over woman, woman is over man. These are doctrines that are created that are outside the intellect of the wisdom of Zahutwi, when gender is not something that manifests just as absolute by itself. Both are needed in creation. The womb of darkness, the feminine principle, is always needed in order to manifest the material world. That's how material beings, planets, suns, stars are born, through the womb of the black hole in space. People look at space, they will tell you, scientists, astronomers, astrophysicists, they'll say, hey, a star was just born. They say, and if you look born, think of how it was born. In an orb. So it's shaped in an orb. Things are in an orb type of, this is the perfect shape for natural nature. So if it's born in darkness, it's born out of a womb. That is the feminine principle. And the material world that seeded in the material world, the seedings of the planets in order for life to grow comes from the panspermia, which are the DNA that are on various comets that see different planets in darkness. This is a natural phenomenon. It's called panspermia. So the masculine principle is there as well. So there is no separation in that regard. That's something that human beings do to try to control others. They did that to try to control the feminine, that man was first, right? And then they overlooked the fact that this God used the earth, right, to make this being. So he already used life on the planet. So this is a part of the phenomena, a part of the doctrine of gender. Every male thing has female element. Every female contains also a male doctrine. So not as in sex. That's not only the principle. Gender does not only manifest in your sex organs. That's the first thing people with they have this whatever, I don't know what goes on in their mind. The moment you say sex, I guess that's a part of the spell. When you say sex, gender, sex is sexual intercourse. So they think sex in that regard, gender, or sexual organs, and that's not what it's saying. It's saying that gender or sex manifests in all things. Is it interacting with? Is it interacting with so-called dark matter? What is the say? Acting with so? What's your question? Is it interacting with? so-called dark matter? Is what interacting with so-called dark matter? The what are you asking? The archer. Be clear on your question. So let's go to Doctor. I mean, panspermia. Yes. Can you explain it? Chitauri and reptilians and Creole. Okay. For those that are listening, he's asking, can you explain the Chintara, reptilians, and Credo Matwa? Are they real? I don't know about reptilians are real. And we could have reptilians are real. We can go over them briefly. Did they create humans, for example? We'll go over that. Anunnaki, it depends on what humans you're talking about. Not all human beings were created from the same race of beings. Check out episode 1 and episode 2 if you can. I don't know if you have episode 1 and 2. We discussed this in detail. One is the creation of the Caucasoid. One is the creation of the Nagardanet, African race. We discussed that there. Panspermia does interact with dark matter, yes, because dark matter births actions and births the material world, births atoms, births everything in the material world on the other side of hydrogen, coming this way to the physical. From this way to this side is the dark matter, where the etheric counterpart of existence, the, let's say, primordial soup, exists, where things that were no thing at a time or not numbered exist within the etheric world. And this is the world of dark matter that's undetectable by human beings. So human beings now are just getting the technology, but within dark matter, there's a, let's say, how can I explain it? It was a dark, the father explains it in this way, the feeding the forces, where he speaks about how the dark matter in a explosion, various explosions, things are born out of a notat or dot or seed, right? Just like everything is born or everything grows, every plant, every animal comes from a seed. Excuse me. So the seed exists within the universe. There's seeds, etheric seeds within the universe that births the material world from a microscopic world. The same way the spark of life happens with the cell and the egg, a 0 point, that creates a 0 point reference. The 0 point reference is the reference at what point that particular entity time begins to grow or exist for that being. That 0 point is the conception, not the 0 point of the creators of this being, but the creation. It has a 0 point reference. The creators also have a 0 point reference. However, in our doctrine, in the etheric world of natural nature and dark matter, there is no time, because there is no matter. So you only determine, how is time. Let's address this. How is time determined? Time is determined based on a record of a recording, the matter between two pieces of mass. Meaning time on Earth is you on Earth rotating on the axis, rotating on the planet Earth, rotating on this axis, and you on this planet counting the degrees by which that circle takes 360 degrees to reach the same point that you started, which you call your time zones, 24 time zones, right? 24 hours to make a complete circle. But is that time? If you turn around or you circle an object, is that time? Because time is typically overstood by most to be going forward, moving this way. That's what people say. I'm moving forward in time, right? Let's move forward. Oh, that means time is moving forward. That's an illusion. Time is not moving forward, because according to physics, according to Earth, if you move in a circle, that's considered time. Not forward, that's time. So time is not a place, a direction you're going. According to matter, it's the revolution or the rotation of Earth on its axis. And then another cycle of time is Earth moving in another circle around the sun. So that's two records of time, one on Earth, 24 hours in a day, and then another cycle of time going around the sun, making it a year. Then you have another cycle of time belt where the solar system now is moving around the center of a larger body, which is the Milky Way. And then you have another existence of time or cycle of time where that Milky Way is now revolving or moving around another larger. So time is not what you call moving forward. Your time is an expansion. Because give the prime example, if you were to get off the planet, let's just say, follow me with this, right? Let's get off the planet. Let's all just in your mind take a trip. We all floating off the planet, and let's look down at the planet. And now we're watching it turn. Now, are you in time? Now, would that mean now as you watch the earth spin, because those people on the planet are spinning on an axis, and you watch the day go by? Let's watch a day. Let's watch another day go by. And let's watch another day go by. And now we watch 360 times of this thing circling, and you're still watching it, right? Are you aging? So people say you age in time. You don't age in time. Because if you're off the planet, how are you going to age? You age because of gravity. You age because gravity is now pulling at your body, as the father explained, every day for decades, and you begin to lose the battle. It begins to pull on your skin to now you have wrinkles. It begins to pull or has been pulling on the feminine, let's say her breast, where now, okay, the elasticity is given out. So now the breasts are not as firm. It's like it's losing the battle because Earth is steady pulling on you. How much weight is it pulling on? It's pulling on you on the equal amount of weight. If you weigh 180 pounds, that's how much force of weight gravity is pulling on you. So you fight gravity every day. This is why you lay down to go to sleep, because by the end of the day, you're exhausted in your fight, right? You done fought gravity from the time you got up. You're lighter, so you weigh less, so you have more energy. You recharge your cells, your body. Now you wake up. Now let me fight gravity again. You wake up, you sit up in bed. As you get older, it's not as easy to fight gravity because you've been doing this for 70, 80, 90, 100 years. So it's wear and tear. Your joints, you become shorter because your bones are being pulled down into the earth, right? Your skin, your eyelids are being pulled down into your face, right? Your ears, your jaw begins, you lost maybe a few teeth, so your jawline is being pulled. But are you aging? Because imagine if you're off the planet, if you're not succumb to those physical laws of gravity, then would you be younger? Would you, at a certain point after 3 or 4 years, yet so that you don't have the wear and tear? So it's an illusion when they say these things, time is aging you, things of that. No, it's not that. These are physical laws that have that have a physical effect on on the human body, and it causes the appearance of what you call age. And so that's not what time is. And another thing they do is time is on a clock. So they put the time moving this way, which is another circle. So time doesn't exist. This is all a part of this doctrine, right? That the Father teaches about the doctrine of growth and creation, where all things exist on the physical plane, were created and created themselves out of pre-existing matter. The root reality of creation is that the very word itself merely means to grow. Habits grow, thoughts grow, knowledge grow, illness grow, bacteria grows, the mind grows, but through information channeled from the etheric cord from the mental. So it's only growth. Even if you're changing form, you're still growing. Growth is change. So you grow right? Your body grows, your mind grows, and as it grows, change is inevitable because your spiritual body has to grow and therefore shed the physical body. Your spiritual body has to grow, sheds the physical body. Earth has to grow, so it takes back the physical form that it allowed you to borrow. It lets you use its skin, it lets you use its material matter, and it's requesting it back. So you have to give it back and to allow your spiritual body to continue to grow. So that is what really time is. Time is an illusion. It really doesn't exist. This is all a part of your sacred doctrines that the Father has been teaching us as Tehutwi incarnated. The ninth doctrine is the doctrine of breathing. Breath is life. You don't merely breathe in and out. So what he's explaining here is that you breathe, yes, with breath, but your body also breathes through the pores. Everything is an expansion and contraction. Thoughts breathe. Every manifestation that you see in this physical world is an exhaling. So if you think of a thought, which is you inhale this thought from the mental abode, you use the mental faculty, your brain, to create the life. You use same thing, you breathe in this thought, you create the life of this thought. And when it's time to exhale this thought, it manifests into the creation of the material world by which the human being created whatever it decides to create. Therefore, breathing is essential to all life and is one of the most important that he speaks about. So, as he explained, artwork is the exhaling of the thought of an artist. He breathed in the thought, the idea, gave it life, put it in action, and exhaled it onto the canvas. So, those are the nine Tehutwi doctrines. I hope that's clear and good for you all. So, let's get to some of these questions. Or are we clear? We covered a lot. Let me see. Let's say thanks for. Okay, yeah. Can you explain? Okay, yeah. So the reptilians. So let's talk about these some of these reptilian. These are intergalactical beings as well, right? So he speaks about reptilians in a lot of his publications. Like I said, the email is in the description, so you can email if you want to talk about or you want some of the publications from the father, specifically extraterrestrials and creation is incredible. He goes through the various species of reptilians there, how they come to the planet, come into the planet. There's a book called Shambhala and Argatha that speaks about there's a book called Shambhala and Argatha that speaks about extraterrestrial beings there. Reptilians is about 16 species of reptilians, which is also intergalactical beings, right? The intergalactical beings that some are benevolent, some are malevolent, right? Some have scales, some have some are 7 feet tall, some are even some of the Arcanians, different species. Some have pores in the back of their neck. One green species, they emit a green pus out the back of their neck. Some have the ability to run 90 miles an hour and turn around, turn their heads and go back the other way. The father explained the various species from Draconian species. They enslaved the Pleiadians. Some species enslave other races for their control. This species of Draconians from Draco enslaved the Pleiadians, and the Pleiadians was trying to eliminate the control they had over them. So they even used the Canaanites on this planet to feed these beings, which is you look at episode 4, we go into that. So reptilians, not the reptilian species, some of them come from dinosaurs, right? That came from earlier uh Triassic period where you have the dinosaur era, right? Those are reptilian species. Some of them bred those dinosaurs on the planet. This is why when you see Tyrannosaurus Rex and you see other dinosaurs that scientists, archaeologists say existed on the planet millions of years ago, they are part of the reptilian families from other star systems. Not all reptilians that come to the planet have an interest in the planet itself. Some came to hunt. They used to hunt these dinosaurs. Some left their seed in the waters, and they came out of the water as alligators. When you see an alligator, you see the scales on it. These are reptilian species. Turtles are reptilian as well. Some birds are descendants of reptilians as well. And so reptilians is a broad general term. Some of them are predators, yes. Some of them are herbivores. Hasiplodon is one of them that were herbivores. So you had two species that came from a dimetrodon breakage, or two lines of reptilian. Some became very herbivores, and some became reptilian or meat eaters. This is why on the planet you have different animals that even you have plants that eat meat. So all of these are involved with some type of extraterrestrial implanting on the planet. It's not all beings are just from Earth. Some species were brought here from these intergalactical beings. Some species are highly intelligent, like ants. Ants come through as well. When you look on the planet, you have to broaden your mind and understand where the Father explains that this planet has been habited by many different beings, many different worlds over. And they came back and forth because this planet was a beautiful place, and a lot of beings will come to vacation here, a vacation spot. Some of them will come to hunt. Some of them will come to breed their seed. We call hybrids. When you see some what do you call abductions, look up abductions of humans, and their seed was that they end up pregnant because they plant their seed inside of some of the women and give birth to their seed on the planet. When you look at a lot of these species or funny looking human beings on the planet, bees as well, yes. When you look at certain human beings on the planet and they have this strange look about themselves, it doesn't look human. You know, their neck, they don't have a chin, they don't have a curvature in the back of their head. Their arms look a little bit too long for their upper torso. They have these puffy fingertips at the end of their hands that look like marbles. And you're like, you know, Farrakhan has that reptilian type of what do you call it, trait on his hands. I think the rapper Cameron too. And you look at the sort of certain these people, they have these interbred characteristics from species that they don't really know where they come from. This is why it's a blessing for us to have these publications where you can look into these books where the Father explains about them, and we understand exactly where they come from, who they are, because they're going to reveal themselves in this day and time. So to answer the question, no, reptilians didn't, not that type of reptilian. The Anunnaki seed from Enlil's side bred the cherubim side, right? They call it Mukrabu, bred this seed of Adamites that Abraham made a covenant with. It just so happened that the seed by which the world, religious world, has been controlled by is the seed of the Anunnaki of a specific bloodline, Enlil's, pardon me. Enlil blood, which is the son of Anu. This is why their job was to get 90% of the world to worship them. And they were very successful at it because of these books, right? No, I haven't. So Savant P, I haven't seen a picture of Farrakhan's father. Send it to me the way if you want me to notice something. That's funny. I'm showing it that this is what the Father points out, these characteristics. He said Cameron's fingers look kind of funny. Yeah, just look at his fingers. You see these fingertips that curl over like it's like almost like Q-tips. That's what it reminds me of. But the species that's responsible for breeding the Adamite of Genesis, not us. Again, not the African race. Our ancestors, the Nathar, Panatharu, our overseers, bred us or genetically seeded the planet on this 24 sector, right? In a 24,000 mile, 24,000 circumference planet on right with 24 degrees or time cycles, 24th chromium, which is the 24th element. This was a plan for our breeding here on in a Fafre Ka on the planet in tropical environment. Their genes, you as melanated people, were bred right in their image and after their likeness. You were given gifts and they cared for you and loved for you as their children. The seed that Genesis speaks about is the breeding of the Adamite 6,000 years ago, which is a specific race, not you. And so they are a reptilian like. They are shapeshifters. They are able to take on different forms. Shapeshifting is a part of one of their intergalactic beings characteristics, where they're able to, they have control of their DNA to metamorphosize, right? Or dematerialize, or let's say reconfigure their genetics to take a shape of a form like a chameleon of another species. And this is a part of who they are. So you don't see that, um you don't see reptilians breeding in all races. The Adamite race, they did mix in with other species and give birth to certain children on the planet. A lot of their children, as the father explained, um, end up in police force to do brutal in the military because they're bloodthirsty, and they use them as killers to go kill, go hurt, maim. They'll kill children. They'll kill women. They'll kill. It doesn't matter. They'll kill them. And oftentimes they would go back and collect their bodies, especially at war. So a lot of their breeding, what you see as human beings, no, they hide behind dark glasses. So when you see them on these Navy SEALs teams, or the certain military teams that go in to hunt, and you see that if you see the activities of what takes place on these military fields, you see that they just kill for target practice, and then they come back and collect the bodies. Some of them eat the bodies. Some of them, harness for their overlords, things of that nature. It's all types of wickedness that takes place in high places. You're just not aware of it because they can't disclose that, but eventually they'll let it be known. So yeah, so I hope that answered your question. Check out episode 1 and 2, that where we speak about the creation of the various races. Some people have 6 fingers and toes. Why do some people have 6 fingers and 6 toes? Well, that's because you had a group of Anakim or Raphaim, or beings who have 6 fingers and 6 toes, and because they used the genes of these beings, it was introduced into the Adamites' blood, and the Caucasoid Canaanites' blood, in the breeding process. And a lot of them became deformed. When you see beings with hirsutism, which is hair all over their backs, all over their bodies, they have some people have massive rows of teeth. These are all deformities introduced from outside species. Rh negative blood types, right? These are outside species blood. When you see gigantism, which are the tall beings who you don't know what did this being look like Adam? Where did you get the gene structure of having gigantism, which is a disease where the uh, what is it, thalamus, or the gland, thyroid gland secretes uh, uh, it over secretes the growth hormone, where they have size 20 shoe, 8-9 feet tall, huge heads, big hands, right? And then you have dwarfism, which is another genetic strand that was introduced into the genetics of these beings. And because various beings was mixed in with them, and from that various primates as well, they picked up the hair texture, they picked up the red hair, they picked up the brown hair, they picked up the blonde hair, they picked up you have your Neanderthals, you have your men with hair all over their backs. They look like, they call them barbarians. They have Scottish, you have your Vikings, your 6 kings. So all of that is addressed in, like I said, episode 1 and 2. To speak to the six toes, yes, pituitary gland. I think the thyroid gland is responsible for growth as well. They all work together. So yeah, you're right, Yabani. Um, certain secretions that's responsible for growth, and extreme obesity. Yes, these are not Duanis. Your You have Duanis, you have your Flugerods, and you have your Diros. Yes, Diros. Shambhala and Agartha speaks about this as well. These are books that you have access to. It's a Caucasoid. It's a race of beings who are extremely obese. They live in different caverns of the planet. This is a fact. When you see someone 800 pounds, did Eve look? If you believe in a religious creation, Deros, yeah. You look at the religious story of creation, right? Did Eve have the genes of a 800-pound woman? How was it introduced into the blood? Why is some people that just no matter what, they can eat anything? They rarely defecate. They have huge bodies, stomach, 3 and 4 stomachs. These beings or Deros, this species, they regurgitate their food. Like a cow, they actually have 2 stomachs. These are different species on the planet that came from other star systems or were bred here on the planet. So it just depends, right? Elephantitis, exactly. Then you have other diseases that causes what I'm looking for? It's called ichthys, I think. Ichthys, I forgot. I don't know how it's pronounced. It's always been where you have scales, and then you have beings with the pickle, uh, the large moles that look like pickle man. They show these pictures on movies because they know that these species have intervened in the genes on the planet. Beings such as the creature of the Black Lagoon. They know these beings exist. They know Bigfoot exists, coming from Cirrus. They call them, we have a book called Kaber Kadam, Bigfoot, which speaks about Cirrus star system and Sasquatch. All of these beings you can be familiar with and just have an awareness of who they are. And then you'll understand why so many Anunnaki and these beings are coming to you. They don't understand that. Only our Father has made it clear in these publications and these actual facts. This is our job. So that's why I'm glad you all are tuning in. I hope you shared the channel. I hope you subscribed. And because we was cut short last week, I'll just continue to go because it's a lot that needs to be covered. So I mean, and I'm also answering questions. Okay, so elephantitis and the Hindu obese elephant man god. Look at that connection. Exactly. I'm sure you all have seen situations. Don't I mean I'm speaking on it, but I'm sure you speak about the huge round stones that are being found around the world. Yes, there's a book. I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a book called, because these are the great balls of fire that are coming. You have to be, these are left around the planet. A lot of them are South America. Some were found in Florida. There's these huge balls that are like perfect spheres, and nobody know exactly where they come from. Well, the Father explained that these were left by certain extraterrestrials. So when it's time to replenish the earth, right, or the hereafter, they will pull these balls up and heat them up and send them back to the planet. It will look like a massive meteorite shower. But they have to cleanse the planet. Our ancestors have to cleanse the planet of the species and the behaviors of this beast man and what he's done to this beautiful planet. He's destroyed the beautiful planet. So nature will intervene in order to preserve the existence of this planet, because this is our planet. And because of the creation of the planet and the perfect existence it has between in the solar system, the fact that if it was a few feet closer to the sun or a few feet closer from away from the sun, it would either be too hot or too cold. Life wouldn't exist. So our ancestors placed it in a perfect environment, a perfect degree away from the sun, close and close, as close and away from the sun, depending on how you look at it, right? Because either way, either direction, it wouldn't be habitable. And so this beautiful planet has been, um, let's say, infiltrated by so many different extraterrestrial beings, but it was the breeding of the children of the Adamites from the Anunnaki and their descendants, right, breeding this disease race and other species that have caused the planet to become sick. And the planet is sick, is throwing up, is in the form of volcanoes. Its blood is poison, which is the water. The pollution is a pollution. There's a pollution island. Uh, let's say pollution island the size of Texas right now in the Pacific Ocean, the size of Texas. Plastic, garbage, rubber, all types of things. Microplastics has infiltrated all of the life species in the water. Um, you have, we're going to go through let's talk about the end. We're going to have a whole lecture on that, because when you see give you an example right now in India, there's a river in India that is so polluted that they said that they detected the pollution, and it's been determined that it pollutes the ocean with so much waste and toxicity that it can fill water bottles that reach the moon every day. That's how much pollution comes from this one river that reaches the moon back and forth. That's how much pollution. I mean, the stats is crazy. I think one of the stats is 70%. I have all the statistics here, and we'll do it. We'll go over it, but I'm just briefly touch on it because you mentioned the planet, right? And what's going on, and the stones, and why they have to replenish the earth. The planet Earth has been through several cleansings, and this is just one that will take place. And you have to be just in the right place at the right time. But it's 70% of all animals, right? 70% of all animals and plants have been eaten off of the planet since 1970. Yeah, they say, let me see if I can read this stat. Oh, the river is the Yangtze River, China. The Ganges River in India, despite being India's holiest river, says with locals bathing in the water to wash away sins, is 1,500 miles long. I'll answer. Oh, give me a sec. I'll get to that question. No problem, Seeth. Right? It says Ganges River, despite being India's holiest river, locals bathing in water to wash away sins. 1,500 miles long, the river gradually transforms into a slurry and urban sewage, animal waste, pesticides, fertilizers, industrial waste, industrial metals. According to Reuters, if a day's worth of pollutants were packed into half-liter bottles, they would stretch to the moon and back. Do you hear that? That's how much the Ganges River, this is a Reuters statistic. Half-liter bottles, they would stretch to the moon and back nearly 4 times. I said moon, but it said back 4 times. That's crazy. There's no way that much pollutants is coming from a river, but these are the stats. And the Citarium River of Indonesia, 20,000 tons of toxic waste from textile factories, along with 340,000 tons of wastewater, are disposed of in the Citarium River daily, 1,000 times the drinking water standard. Heavy metals, aluminum, it just goes on and on. Oh, sorry. You can't hear me? Is my sound clear? Maybe because I'm stepping away from the mic. Let me get closer. Am I good? So yes, to answer your question, it may be your. Please, someone put in the chat if I can be heard, because I don't want to go out and then you don't hear me. But to answer the question, is homosexual brothers and sisters? Well, the Father doesn't make don't. It's cutting. Okay. It's cutting. Testing. Testing. Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you all. It may be other people's network, maybe not mine. Appreciate it. But if I'm clear for the majority, then okay, great balls. So yeah, yeah. Let me get to the questions. The great balls of fire. Then the second question. Now, the great balls of fire. The planet Earth is going to make sure that our ancestors will make sure the planet Earth is cleansed and that it's a renewal. And hereafter is hereafter the devil is wiped off of the planet, and this world is cleansed of the filth and the disease and things of that nature. And you all have the purified ones. You have to purify yourselves. You have to cleanse yourselves inside out. You have to make sure you stop eating red meat. You have to make sure you you drink plenty of water. Stop drinking sugar if you can at all. Cut the sugar out. Do I have no sound or sound? Someone says now it's no sound. Everyone is hearing me. I can be heard. I'm clear. So I'm not sure, Orel. It may be your mic cuts off at the end of my sentences. I don't know what to do about that. Okay. Yeah. So okay. Thank you. They're just messing with you. Okay. Why you want to mess with me? Okay. Cool. So that's what happens with those great balls of fire. So we have a book called Great Balls of. This is interesting because the father just wrote. He wrote a book called Great Balls of Fire. Now, when it comes to sexuality, right? So we don't get involved with a person's sexuality. What you do in your bedroom with whoever you and whatever whom you do it with is your business. The Father tells us to stay out of people's bedrooms. That's one, first and foremost. We're not responsible for what you do. We don't dictate what a person does and cannot do with their sexuality. I don't know people's sexuality, and it's not my concern. We're just here to teach the facts. So if you have a certain sexual preference, then that's your preference. As long as it's not something that you're pushing on others or influencing others to do, because that's your own business. The same way you may like a certain ice cream, you may like a certain food. That's your preference. No one is making a big deal out of because you like fried chicken over grilled chicken. And everyone has their right to do with their bodies because this is what Panatharu gave you with your bodies. However, we don't shun people. We don't discriminate because we don't have a right to discriminate against people. The facts will always be the facts. The facts speak for themselves. There's genetic facts that deals with homosexuality and or he called it hormone sexuality because you're exchanging hormones with the same sex. Just like we have a book called Genetic Kiss that addresses exchanging the genes of when in a kissing a person of the same sex or of the opposite sex. You're still exchanging the DNA, and you just have to be aware of the effects of the genes when it mixes with you because you're taking on the personalities of all of the descendants of other people, of the person you're involved with, especially the feminine. The feminine engaging in sexual activity with men or men that are not transforming or men that are not in their right state of mind. You pick up all of their diseases because the DNA has the programming of those diseases. You're picking up the mental insanities if they have mental insanities. You're also picking up the voices of the ancestors of those individuals that you take in. But fortunately, the woman does cleanse herself every uh 28 days, right? So she rejuvenates her cells because she eliminates through the menstrual blood the cleansing of the genes, and it takes a certain amount of time to eliminate all of the genetics from the men because she takes in and she holds it, because women feminine are the receivers of the genes. So the sperm or the saliva, it sits within her being. So Panatharu has blessed her with a certain mechanism, the menstrual, which allows her to cleanse her body. So she can cleanse herself quicker. Um, Depends on how many men she's dealt with, we'll address that on December 9th with our feminine. Everybody should tune in for that. That's going to be really incredible. So you have androgynous beings, those beings that, like I said, that are both male and female, hermaphrodites and hemorphodites in existence. You have the beings, extraterrestrial beings who are asexual, who produce on their own. So nature is a combination of these various genetic makeups, but you just have to be aware of the genetic rules that govern human beings and the ability to transform and cleanse yourself. You have to be aware of that. It's not something that's discriminative, but it's something that makes you mentally aware to protect yourself from mixing in with the beast man, mixing in with the genes of Adamites, mixing in with people who are overly lustful and promiscuous. And these beings have that sometimes they get possessed by what do you call it? It's a certain, they call them fairies, right? And certain beings that possess overly promiscuous people who the lust spirit takes over their being, and the six ether forces causes them to engage in activities that they wouldn't normally engage in, especially with alcohol and other factors are involved. So we have a book called Sexual Rules for Nuapians, right? That's a patrak that the Father addresses that, and also addresses the many phenomenons that take place within natural nature. So we just teach the facts about it. Now, what you do again is not something that we dictate, because I don't want anyone to dictate what takes place in my bedroom, and no one should be involved in another people's bedroom unless you have a sort of way you're interested in joining them. And that's where insecurities come in. A lot of times when people speak about other people's nature or sexual behavior, is because they can't confront their own. They have insecurities and perversions about themselves that they're not willing to address, and they're not willing to confront. So they pass it off and point the finger. And this is all a part of human behavior. You have to look at yourself, see what you like, address what you enjoy, what you don't like, what's dangerous to you. All look within yourself for that judgment. In Wu Sabat, we don't we don't do that. You are a deity. You have to grow into a deity yourself. We don't condemn and point the finger as religious doctrines do. That's something that the Mukasu has introduced to control you. So what can you do to stop smoking weed? Stop smoking weed. Don't light it. Don't roll it. Don't buy it. That's it. So I hope that's clear. There's nothing else magical to that. Has Dr. York ever spoke of ETs that look like lions, cats, insects? Yes. Wow. Yes. There's a what did okay. Yeah. So he does speak about that in a book called Patak Roar. He speaks about it, which is the decision. He also speaks about it in the Akasha records. He speaks about let me see. That's interesting because I just think I just had it. Oh, it's right here. Yeah. He speaks about they're called Shumgao or Onshumgao. Then you had Mudganu snake men, Mudbabu lizard men, right? Insects, which are your he called them praying mantis. Some beings look like praying mantis. Praying mantis are actually extraterrestrials. If you look at them, praying mantis is one of the most incredible species of insects that you will ever find. They can devour almost any insect. The way they move, their eyes, if you look at their eyes, they look like extraterrestrials, right? When you look at their eyes, right? When you see how they use their arms. I saw the one video where they were destroying cockroaches. So praying mantis actually are related and used to protect the Nagardner race from other species of extraterrestrials. It's a lot to take in, but yes, there are various species. I don't know. I know he mentioned insects. He did mention the bees. Bees are extraterrestrial in the insofar as they hover. They use hovering the same way UFOs or IFOs use the technology, the energy within the atmosphere to hover. If you see, said if you notice a bee, the wings are too small for it to hold its body, so it has a special way that it hovers, and the way that they use geometrics to create the beehive, the five, the pentagram, what is it? Sexagon, hexagon. Yeah, not pentagon. The hexagon, the five, one, two, three, yeah, 6 pointed or six-sided figure in the beehive. And he said they're highly intelligent. They use uh certain sounds and smells to communicate. And the hardest they work, he says like 60 trips. He told us that it takes 60 trips to create a small thimble full of honey. So he said they are extraterrestrial insects, ants as well. I don't know if he spoke about cats. I'm not sure. You meant someone asked about cats before, but I don't know about the cat. I'm not saying it's not, but he. Oh, matter of fact, there's a lion man. He's spoken of in the book of Samuel, Second Samuel. We talked about that, right? Satire, which is the goat man. These are hybrid beings that are half animal, half human. So I'm not saying the cats. When you look at the lion cat, you do see that in the text. You actually see it in Mesopotamia. They have that lion man. They call it Ari, right? In the text. So it's not in front of me that particular verse, but he does speak about that. So I hope that's clear. Yeah. So any other questions? Okay, I'm okay with these questions. 2D is reported to have said that for every mystery, there's a hidden truth. Facts. What are orbs? Depends. What type of orb? Are you the one that asked the question about um what are the orbs that you see? The orbs that you see? Uh, let me see. Okay. Yeah, orbs. It just depends. Some orbs are trapped beings with that you catch, you may see in the corner of your eye that come in and out of your vision, right? Some some orbs could be the father explained, someone asked about orb. He says some of them are beings that are trying to reverse the negative current that is here on the planet. The planet is surrounded by real high negative current or negative energy, and some beings are to keep balance of the planet and the universe. They attempt to eliminate some of the negative energy. So it just depends on what they are. I can't identify exactly what orbs you're talking about. I don't want to get beside myself and start answering things that I don't know, I can't speak on. That's something that you won't find me doing on the actual facts. I don't answer questions if I don't know. If I don't know, I'll just say I don't know. But if I've read it from the father and it's in the actual facts I can make reference to or an update, I'll point you in that direction. Okay. So the orbs, I can't speak about exactly what that is, but there's different types of orbs, and some are beings, some are just, you know, someone may have punched you in the eye and you just maybe getting flashbacks. No, it was a joke because everything is not serious, like, but some people see flash, you see a light, and then some you could look at a light bulb, right? And the light bulb can burn a small area in your retina, and then you look away and you still see a light orb there. But yeah, I'll get more information on the orb though, because that's a good question, and I'll have a lot of the questions you're asking. It helps. Have you ever met one who can astral project and leave the body? I know this was spoke about in the doctrine. Yeah. Have I met anyone? People have had the experience. And if they, I sometimes I take people's words because I understand. Um, some people that have that experience. I've had that experience. Matter of fact, let me give you an example. One time, right, the father was he was and we were in class on Tamaray, and he was talking about how he would teach us one day, right? Right? I see your question, Savant, and I see your question, Patmos. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He said he's talking about how. Oh, because let me tell you this. One of the questions they asked the father one day, what is it now? You all may have experienced this, right? If you've experienced this, let me know. It is a crazy phenomenon. It's just that some people don't know how to express it because it sounds crazy. But have you ever been in a dream? Have you ever had a dream and you're in a dream, right? Where in the dream you may be, say, on a boat, right? On a boat, and you're dreaming, and you fall. You in the dream. You're doing whatever I guess maybe whatever you're doing in the dream. You're on a boat, etc. And then someone comes and on your dream knocks on the door. Boom, 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 boom. I'm giving an example because I had this type of dream. Knocks on the door. Boom, boom, and they knocking on the door. And in your dream, they're knocking on the door in your dream, and you actually wake up and someone is knocking on the door, right? If you had that type of dream, or you may have had a dream where um you're having a dream and you're watching a movie in your dream, and someone kicks in the door in your dream, and actually someone is kicking in the door in real life. So he said, how is that able, how are you is this possible where you mesh real life and you're in the spirit world, right? And you're having a dream in the spirit world, totally indifferent from the physical. In your dream, you're having this actual experience, but it's in an adjacent world. But the incident in the physical somehow meshes with the dream to where, as you're dreaming, someone is knocking on the door. A person has literally walked up to your door and banged on your door, right? When you have that, he said that what happens is you are coming from the spiritual world back, and the physical is moving this direction. The spiritual is you're coming back through your etheric cord. And as you're coming back through the etheric cord into the physical to wake up, you've actually went forward in time. And as you're coming back through the cord, because you know you have an etheric cord when you dream, that's what astral projection is. When you're dreaming, your body is at rest, therefore your spiritual body has more time to is more active. Therefore, you can travel in this etheric world and travel or astral project, right? And some beings, if you're more spiritually advanced, you have the ability to you're more advanced in it, you have the ability to control it a little more than others. So when you come back back to this dream, when you come back, and because you move forward in time, you can't pick up the entire incident of the person and the knocking on the door where they come from. You only could pick up the part where they knocked on the door. So as you're coming back through and you went forward in time, you mesh that incident with the dream. And that's the only part of the dream you're able, or the only part of the real forwarding in time that you're able to connect with. And therefore, it meshes perfectly in your dream where you dream an incident and it actually is happening. That's one incident of that. So he explained that. And what he explained is that I'm going to teach you all how to travel from where you are to where you live, right? He said, I'm going to teach you how to astral project. And at the moment, he said, I'm teaching you how to go right here, right now, from where you are back home. And in my mind at the time, I thought of, I wasn't living on the land at the time. I was like 30 minutes away, like maybe 20 minutes away. I had a place in a small city called Monticello. And in my mind, I was like, and I went there to this place, to my place. Though I was taught in class, I went to the place. In my mind, I was looking at my home. I was like, wow. And the father looked at me and said, I can tell you just went there because you blinked. And I was like, whoa, that was powerful. So he was just showing how he knew from a blink of an eye, you can go anywhere in space and time. So spiritual projection or astral projection is a very real phenomenon. Now, the problem is that you can be trapped outside of your body. That's why it's very difficult and it's very dangerous for those that are not spiritually aware or have a spiritual guide. That's why you need a spiritual guide to help you and assist you with those phenomenons. Now, and it happens with people who become unconscious. Some people who are unconscious, though they're still alive, they're trapped outside of their body. Their spirit is trapped outside of their body. And it's sojourning in the spiritual world where they can't come back into their being. And they will wake up and they say, wow, this person is unconscious. They may have been in a car accident or had a very traumatic event. And their body, spiritual being is snatched outside of their body. And they lose connection to the etheric cord. And sometimes etheric beings will assist the person, right, by reconnecting it. And it may take time, though. That's why a person may be unconscious. They will say, doctors will tell you he's been unconscious for 4 or 5 years. But the heartbeat, the being, the body, everything is alive. But why isn't the conscious there? Because the spirit, the conscious travels with the spirit and the soul. And you can be trapped outside the body. And there's literal events or um, records or incidents where people will say, I was looking at my body from the room when they were saying I was dead. And I was like, no, I'm not dead. I can see what's going on. Because it takes 30 days for the for the spiritual being to totally depart. But sometimes the etheric cord is still attached and a person can be unconscious. They can have a heartbeat. They can have brain activity. So the father said, in those incidents, you have to bring someone, right, who is close to them and have them around them to talk to them and communicate with them, and it will help them guide their spirit back into their body. That's why a lot of times, where if you see a person who's in a hospital, the mother, the sister, the daughter, or whatever will come and talk to them every day, every day. That brings the settles the spirit, or reconnects that emotional link, will reconnect them to the place where their body is, and then they can relink themselves, and then they'll wake up inside it, back in their body, and they don't know what happened, because they're not recording, the conscious is not recording the physical any longer. So the time that they were outside of the body for however long, it seemed like it was just one day or a small amount of period, the same amount the time when you dream and you go to sleep, and you may dream, a dream may seem like it's for 3 hours when it's really for 5 minutes. That's because the spirit is moving at such a fast rate. The experience it has is recording 3 and 4 hours or 5 hours of an event in a small period of time. So that's what happens. But the Father, as a spiritual master, has to guide you in that spiritual world and those spiritual abodes, because he controls, he's in on all 9 planes. He's able to go back and forth down to the lowest abode, which we are here, and to remove and help assist our ancestors who have been tormented on those lower abodes, which you have to do now by taking in wusabat, taking in actual facts. You have to teach or speak and liberate your ancestors, your own family's ancestors who've died from not having a connection to the spiritual abode. You have to pull them or raise them up, because they're being tormented by religious evil forces. They're being tormented right now, and they're depending on you to bring them out of it. They're depending on you to get this right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, and this and raise your spiritual body enough to where you can assist them and guide them to the Father and introduce them to the liberating doctrine. How? By you in digesting this information, and you teaching and sharing the channel and sharing the books and reading as much as you can, reading the actual facts, the hereafter doctrine. You will be able to help them, remove them from being in bondage, because no one is connected to them but you. So they can't depend on in the spiritual world, because of the forces of religion that they converted to a few years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever time they passed through slavery, through the 6,000-year bondage. They were tormented life by these wicked forces, witch forces, these white magic forces. And so they died in torment, afraid that they were going to go to hell. And so they never were able to raise up to that mental abode. You have to do that. And the Father is responsible. His job is to get this to you so you can free all of your ancestors, and we can all remove and live in this new cycle freely. So I may have missed some questions here. Let's say, have you ever heard the term starseed? Yes. Astral projection, the same coin. Okay, for those that are listening, have you ever heard the term starseed that's popular online, where there's a young brother named King Cassius who claims he astral projects and travel different planets? Could he be a golden child? I don't know. I can't speak for people. I don't want to. I don't know what people are claiming, right? But one thing the Father said: don't claim to be a golden child. Golden children typically don't want to be claimed. They don't want that attention. They don't want to um, have that type of, let's say, laser on them. They typically shun the spotlight. They're not individuals who want to be known as, look at me, I can levitate. Look at me, that's not what they do. They may have a purpose. Now, if they have a purpose to teach and raise others, right, which is a job that those that know should be doing, then that's different. But it's not something that the Father says that is something that those who are golden children will make the claim and brag and boast about. That's just not it. So I don't know the guy, so I can't speak on him. And if he claims to astral project, then it's possible. And those that can do it, but it's a discipline. It's not something like, ooh la la, I'm a psychic reader. Call in and let me charge you for reading your future. That's not what happens. Not with true initiates and true students of the Father. That's not what we do. We don't seek out glory or seek out gain in our job, right? Because that's not the fulfillment. The physical world and intangibles, they come and go. That's something we can easily manifest. So it's not something that's needed to be done for the material world's gain. Real beings are who are of the Father and have mastered and are mastering this doctrine. We can think our way. We can think things into existence. We don't have to use others for those purposes. So I'm not saying that's him. I'm just saying that you have to be mindful of those individuals who are trying to mislead others and not leading you to the Father. I'm leading. My job is to lead you to God. That's it. Nothing else. There's nothing else for you to do right now in this day and time. There's nothing else for you on this planet for you to, no direction for you to be looking at. Everything in the world is wicked and of the devil and his minions. There's nothing, nothing that will be fulfilling. Nothing in the music industry, nothing in the rap industry, nothing in career modeling. None of those things will be fulfilling for your physical being and your soul. So that what we're giving here on the actual facts is valuable because there's only one heavenly Father. That's it. You're not going to find no other being anywhere in the multiverse that is like him, right? And he is the source. He's the source of myself. He's the source. I'm the only reason, the only way I'm able to even sit and talk for 2 and 3 hours of the way that I'm giving you facts upon facts is because I chose to become one with the word, right? Because that's what was my decision. That's my genetics. That's my fate. And in that, my job is to make sure you have it because the truth held within one person becomes a lie. So it's no sense of trying to digest a thousand books just to walk around and sound heavy to impress people. It doesn't work because nature won't allow you and won't allow you to progress in that manner. If you're a selfish being, you won't be used by your ancestors to assist. They won't use you. They won't choose you to do that. You won't even because they know that what you're going to learn and what you acquire is for your own selfish gain. And that's not how nature works. Nature gives. Panataru gives. It's nowhere to take. The water gives you life, right? Food, trees don't grow fruit for itself, right? Well, we're all star children in that way. We all because we come from the cosmological stardust. So the Father said, "You still are children of the stars." This is what Wu Sabat is. It's the acknowledgement of the stars. The sun is our closest star, and it's the source of all life on this planet. So if you obtain and take in the life of the sun, you are a star child. You are a child of the sun. So to be a star child is not now to know where specific star you're from and the specific galaxy and the specific planet. That's something the Father has to explain. But for you to be a son or a child of a star or our star or a star child, you are we all are if you breathe and feel and take in the rays of Pareye, the sun, then you are a product of the sun. And with that, you charge your energy, your body like a battery absorbs the sun rays, right? Through your panels of your eyelids, which are brown, it absorbs the sun. Your hair absorbs the sun. Your skin absorbs the sun. So you are a sun child in that regard. So it's not what people, they try to make themselves different from everyone else and more special. It's just that it doesn't work that way. So we're all one family, peace family. Okay, so wow. So you have a lot of great questions today. So I hope you all checked out the schedule. This is what I would like everyone to do since you're listening. Please share the channel because we have December is going to be incredible. I hope this one was good for you all. It was part 2, but we went into other areas. Check out the other episodes. Share the other episodes. We have 1, 2, the origins of creation of man, the creation of the Caucasoid, the creation of the African race. I think 3 is the spiritual abode. We went through that incredible This is the feedback. People are enjoying those episodes. 3, 4 is extraterrestrials. We have 4 and 5. We talk about the Anunnaki. We talk about the breeding. We talk about Enki, Enlil. We go through the bloodlines. We go through Nibiru, the crafts. A lot is covered there. 5 and 6. I think 7 is identity crisis, right? Or 6. Yeah, 6 is identity crisis. We talk about the Native American, Moors, Hebrews. We talk about the migrations and when and how Africans, blacks came to the Americas. Who are we really? Where did we originate? That was great. A lot of great responses from that. I think in 7 we talked about was it Nation of Our Own? I forgot the name, but it's is I think we do part 7, and then 8 is the intergalactical beings. 9 is going to be about obviously the feminine, and then 10 is going to be 9 is going to be good because this is going to a lot of brothers. I implore all of the feminine. Let everyone know. Listen, you have to tune in for December 9th, right? December 9th is going to empower the feminine to such a level. The Father will blow your mind on the power of the feminine and how and who she is, her genetics, who she's supposed to be, her transformation, her as the true goddess, the true God of the planet, right? Giving birth to all deities, giving birth to all prophets, all whatever great men you claim, you all come from a woman. And it's time for a woman to take a position respectfully and make sure she uses her nurturing nature to heal the people, to heal the planet, heal the minds, heal the men on the planet because of the patriarch destruction and poison that's been introduced through religious doctrine of male dominance, right? And learn we can work together harmoniously and let her take her position so she can nurture and raise the children in Wusabat in this new cycle in a way that gives our woman her natural position and acknowledges that the way we do our feminine deities. We're going to go through the feminine deities, the sacred, the mother goddesses, the science of the X chromosomes, the genetic makeup of the feminine, the spiritual connection that she has to Panatharu, the brain aspect, her control, what brain area she controls, the brain area the man is over, her first being first to speak, being first to give birth, being first out of the waters. Oh, we're going to cover so much. It's going to be really good, and the feminine deserve it. Then we're going to address lost in time. That's going to be great. Lost in time. You don't want to miss that. We're going to address the calendars. We're going to address the various time cycles that we have, how we got lost in time, what cycle are we in? The ley lines. Someone asked about the ley lines, how the ley lines got disrupted to where the ley lines were connected to various temples and edifice across the planet. There was an electromagnetic grid that connected all of it together. The energy that was harnessed in these pyramids, the energy that was harnessed on the ley line grid structures. We're going to address the 12 zodiacal cosmological ages that exist, which ones we're going into now, which is the age of Aquarius, Fatah. How is it relevant to our growth? What's the significance of it? Why there's so many different calendars? A lot we're going to cover in that one. And then the last one of the year, of their year, the 27th, is going to be Christ, Horus, Yahshua, Isa, Rehar Akatwi. Who is this being? Where is this being? What did he teach? Everything we can cover in this period of time. So we got some great lectures coming up. So until then, yes, absolutely. This, oh, and so all of this is to get everyone on board so we can, as a collective, free the Father. And we on a direction, we just all have to get on the same page. It has to take all of you as the 144,000, all of you who are part of this great family, great galactic family that the Father has come to the planet to teach. And once you make that connection, we're not going back. We're going to free him and do what we're supposed to do. I'll try to cover as much as I can. As long as y'all support, you can join. You can become a member. You can in here. If you're still listening, you can. There's a way to become a member to support. Check out again. Go through the emails. Can we do a deep dive in the book of spiritual after the physical you dies? We can do that. Right. I'll do as much. It's a lot of information to cover, so I'll do my best. You see, we've been on 3 hours, right? So what I need you all to do again is, if you interested in the books, email. It's in the description. I'll direct you to the publications to see, the ones that you want, and also become a member. And I'm just asking you all to share it. Share the channel. Did I hear you? No, I didn't hear you. I can't hear you. I can read you though. What you read? What you asking, Anthony? Let me go back. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to cover as much as I can. Okay, so yeah, what are you asking? Just put your question again. What was your question? Before we close out, we're about to close out. We're at the 3 hour mark, I think. So, any other questions before I go? Let me know how you enjoyed the podcast lecture, the episode today, and make sure you you allow us to grow, because this is, I'm telling you, next year we're going to be off the charts. People are going to be coming in to listen because there's nothing else out there. Everyone is teaching a bunch of lies. They're lying. They're sensationalism. Nothing is feeding your soul. We have to maintain these facts. Feeling the movement. You on fire, bro. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you, Green Thumb. Appreciate you. Tell your fire. Exactly. We trapped him. He's definitely trapped. You all are trapping him because you're eliminating his power. That's how he gets trapped. When you eliminate the devil's power in your mind, he can't do anything to you, and we win. Just asking this old man who claims he's really Melchizedek. Nah, is Dr. York just nah, dude, come on. No. Okay. So so any other questions? We going? Anthony, okay. So enjoy your evening. I know many of you is enjoying your feast of gratitude. Eat good. Don't stuff yourself. Make sure you eat. The email should be in there. Yeah, check the description. Okay. So peace. Enjoy your evening. Stay safe. And tune in December 9th. And we have episode upload for December 3rd. So I appreciate you all tuning in. You all are great. Take care.